That's fine. I watch your right side. You guys watch your
I think right side. Oh,
Abby back at me.
Nice hit, Paris. Nice!
Good job, guys. Here we go, guys. Much better.
These kids are trash.
Just 1 week after the Stage 2 champion San Francisco Shock lost to the Houston Outlaws, another Overwatch League giant in the Vancouver Titans has fallen. The Los Angeles Valiant, who went 0-7 in Stage 1, but have looked fantastic following the additions of Shax and Fact Fiction, busted the undefeated 19-0 win streak of the Stage 1 champion during their Week 3 encounter. The Valiant certainly forced the Titans out of their comfort zone behind some stellar Sombra play. After defeating the Shanghai Dragons, the Valiant mentioned that Shax had only practiced his Sombra for 3 days coming into this week, making his team's achievement all the more impressive. Kariv has also been spectacular since returning to the flex support position, earning Player of the Match honors while providing plenty of map-winning plays along the way. As per usual with these reviews, we will dive in depth into the maps the Valiant won on their path to victory while skipping the one they lost. The Titans managed to defuse LA's triple DPS onslaught on Oasis, but with Sumin-Su flexing onto the Soldier 76 and the Sombra, you could already see the chinks in the Titans' armor. So, without further ado, this is how the Valiant slayed the Kings. Alright, first point defense for the Valiant. They're opting for the triple DPS bunker setup. Now this is, other teams have played at this as well. You've especially seen most teams who commit to these 3 DPS lineups. Obviously you have Shax, Agilities, and KSF in. Houston has also done the same thing, and what both the Mayhem and Eternal opted to play against Houston was the triple tank double sniper bunker, which is understandable because with that composition, you can easily break the shield of the enemy Orisa. You have more shield pressure, you have pick potential with the Roadhog, everyone else has to be careful. You also keep the Widowmaker a little bit more honest. The Widowmaker has to play closer to the shield or closer to cover, basically. She can't take as heavy of an off angle because she has to play close enough to the Mercy so that she can get rest in case she loses a duel. So that composition just in general is a little more consistent against what the Valiant are running. However, as you can see here, the Titans actually opt for a 2-2 dive with Sumin-Su on the Sombra and Haxel on the Genji, and this is much more difficult to execute. First of all, it's going to be difficult for Haxel to farm Blade. We've seen the same issue, historically, we've seen AKM struggle on Anubis, in terms of building a Blade, and this is kind of a similar scenario because if you think about it, how is Haxel going to be able to farm Blade here? Everyone has to be worried about KSF, who is holding a very oppressive angle here. Everyone is also going to only be diving on a shield. You don't really have a tank you can poke, so it's going to be very difficult to build a Blade, first of all. Second of all, you kind of have to take this point in 2 iterations, and you're still going to be very dependent on your ultimate. So, in the Nanoblade, in the EMP, you do have a lot of good tools, consistent tools to break this bunker, but it's usually going to take a little bit of time. You most likely want to soft jump initially because you can't really jump for kills here. As you can see, the positioning supports are here in the back. Kariv and Kusta still keep eyes on KSF, so Kariv can always peek out and give him orb in case he gets pressured on his own by the Sombra, and the Sombra is really the only person who can get to KSF here uncontested. Everyone else is going to have to kind of chug through this choke point. They're going to have to soft jump, try and take map control, presumably through this angle, while the Valiant also can pocket agilities heavily and try to kind of funnel the Titans back out here into KSF's angles. So that's basically what this setup wants to do. So Sumin-Su most likely wants to pressure KSF, make sure that he can't take clean shots on people trying to cross, and then you slowly have to take map control and build up ultimates if you're the Titans. Now let's take a look at how they do here. Immediately you see Sumin-Su, he's going around. He spots KSF. And KSF is actually shooting around. I think he might have spotted. Someone might have spotted Sumin-Su perhaps, because you just saw KSF take a shot here. So he's expecting Sumin-Su already. And the rest of the team is preparing for kind of a soft jump. Everyone, the Valiant obviously knows this. They have all the information. Shax is gathering information here in main. Everyone is ready. Agilities is double pocketed. Fact Fiction is a little bit further back. He's not playing close to the edge. There's no need to. He just wants to put as much distance as possible, make sure that Bumper and Janu can't really jump on him. He's not really going to be taking any damage. So good positioning here initially by the Valiant. And as you can see, Kariv just goes ahead and gives his orb to KSF because the Valiant are expecting this pressure. They're expecting Suminsu to come at him. So good allocation of resources here by the Valiant. And there you go. As you can see, KSF gets pressured, so he doesn't have a clean shot. This gives Titans a little bit of room in main. Bumper and Janu soft jump just to draw a little bit of aggression and tank some damage, and this should create the opening for the rest of the guys to come back in. But Shax pressures here a little bit as well. Now, this is a little bit weird because Bumper jumps and immediately starts crossing, whereas Janu just stays and he pushes very far up the platform. It seems like there's a little bit of miscommunication here. Janu really shouldn't be this far up on the platform. He shouldn't be taking much damage at all. So a little bit sloppy here. We also see Shax. He's been forced back, and his Translocator is in a pretty good spot here. Let's see, where do we have? There you go. There's Shax. So Shax also has the hack on the mini for KSF. So KSF really has a lot of tools to work with. He's always going to get resources from Kariv. He has a mini pack to play on, and Shax also has his Translocator in a position where he can immediately help KSF in case KSF gets in trouble. So smart allocation of resources here. Now the issue is here, as you see, Janu just takes so much damage unnecessarily. Also, Haxel, very greedy positioning here. And there's no reason for him to be here. You've already accomplished what you needed. You pressured KSF out of this angle. You have an opening for everyone to cross, but for some reason, Haxel pushes forward here. And again, very, very greedy. He's not going to get any support here. He's not going to get any heals. Naturally, Twilight hasn't even crossed yet. Even if he had crossed, Twilight would be here at best, so he would never have an angle on Haxel. You have Slime, who is here as well. So Haxel is never going to get any resources here, but still, he's so greedy. First mistake. Just completely unforced error by Haxel. You've also dealt with Suminsu. Suminsu's been forced out. So back to square one if you're the Titans. Now, because Haxel is dead, because you have that one-man advantage, you can't keep this space if you're the Titans. Once again, agilities, he's going to get pocketed. He can always push people through here, poke them out. Kariv can potentially drop and get a bit of an angle here to poke as well. So really, you can't stay in that area if you don't have 6 people alive, because naturally the Valiant don't want to give up presence on the platform, but they also understand the Titans won't dive or take space on the platform while they still have one person dead. So this death of Haxel really costs the team a lot, but it also means the rest of the guys can't stay. And you can immediately see that happening. Agility's pushing forward, poking from one angle. Bumper jumps out because he's low. And again, there's no heals. Twilight hasn't crossed, so Twilight, you have to jump back to the choke if you want heals. Shax is going to pressure from a different angle. And KSF is now set up in this angle, and he's safe. Right? He knows that it's going to take a while for Suminsu's next rotation to come in. He knows that Suminsu recalled somewhere back in main, so he's good. Because of that, you also see Kariv reallocating his resources. He puts his orb on agilities, and a double-pocketed agilities on the Jaguar here is very, very scary. You can just outduel and outpoke anyone. Let's take a look. Where did Suminsu go? Okay, Suminsu is going in for another rotation on KSF. Let's see. Slime and Janu still stay in that position. Now, Haxel is just spawned, so still, you can't really make a move here if you're the Titans. You can't necessarily, if everyone was alive and Fact Fiction and Agilities made this play, the rest of the team could just jump on the supports and potentially create an opening, create a chaotic fight. But still, those guys are dead. Shax here pressures from one angle, gets the hack, Agility keeps pushing. And you get D-Mech. And you keep staggering here. Very, very sloppy stuff by the Titans. And Shax recalls here. Let's see how Shax ends up dying here. Okay, so he goes Invis right in front of Suminsu. And he's not full HP, so it's going to be very difficult for Shax to make his way back into onto the mini. He's also pushing into the room, so he's pushing away from Custa. And Custa is a little late to react here as well. He agilities gets low, so he goes for agilities. And this is fine, actually. If there's any risk that agilities might die, this is the correct decision by Custa, because he cannot let agilities die. Even if Shax dies, Sumitsu is the only one on this side of the map for the Titans. You can easily force Sumitsu out, and you can res Shax. So not a big problem. So even though Shax dies here, once again, Sumitsu translocates out. You can res that for free. You're still good. And you've just killed the mech. So now you've regrouped as the Titans, but everything's just so out of sync because, yeah, you're sort of ready to make your move, but Sumitsu's it's gonna take a while for him to get to KSF. Jano doesn't have mech, so you can never really set up a proper push here if you're the Titans. You can see Sumitsu again going on that long rotation. A little more defensive positions here for the Valiant because they're ready for the dive again. They don't want to push anymore. You see, they don't want to push because everyone's ready to kind of follow up. So if you push Jano, even though he's in baby form here, you can potentially. What can happen is that a fight is going to happen inside this room. And you don't want to fight inside this room if it's kind of a 6v6 situation because obviously KSF can't help you there. You want to keep the fight here or on the platform. But Janu gets a little bit greedy for the last bit of his mech, goes in for the poke, Fact sucks him in, and kills him. Now, Haxel dashes out. For some reason, Slime still stays. And he shows. He walks into a Widow Mine. So he's eating that damage, which means KSF has wallhack on him. And for some reason, Slime jumps here and peeks. And gives him a free shot. So again, completely unforced error. Absolutely no reason for Slime to be doing this. Yeah, you can keep this position, just hide here. The Valiant won't push you, but you just get greedy and give this to him for free. Now you barely survive, but you're really, really lucky. Like this should have been another kill and another stagger. So finally you formed up the EMP with Twilight. Bumper's gonna jump a little bit deeper, so this should create a lot of space. Again, Sumitsu just pressuring KSF. Orb is on him, so he's still fine. Haxel obviously can't dive as deep as Bumper, so Haxel is still, you can see, he's just on 29%. He hasn't been able to farm anything. There's not much he can do. You can see he's trailing Bumper a little bit, because obviously his gap closer doesn't take him as far. KSF still getting pressured. But you can't really convert any kills here if you're Bumper. You're essentially just creating space, and you have created a lot of space. Twilight is finally in, Slime is coming in, but you're not going to get kills because agilities can just kind of boop you away and jump back with his mines, and he immediately uses his tire. KSF and Shax kill Suminsu, who had EMP. So now you've wasted a nano. You're completely out of sync here. Suminsu overextended and died. Your biggest ultimate, because if you would have created the space, waited out the tire, made sure that KSF doesn't kill you, and then EMP'd someone, maybe you can win. But that's like a very perfect scenario for the Titans. Instead, Suminsu dies. Karif is a little bit out of position here. It is difficult for him to go anywhere. He should have probably have tried to get here to play on the same side as Custa. Now, obviously, the Bumper is controlling the space. He can't do that anymore, so Curve is most likely going to die here. However, you can see there's a little bit of miscommunication here, because Janu still here. He's gonna get DMA'd by the tire. Haxel is diving to try and kill KSF. Again, KSF from this position is drawing so much aggression and forcing the Titans to split their resources. Sumitsu died, presumably called that KSF is very low. While he's in this room, he also can't get as much help, even though he does have orb here. The orb is going to wear off if he stays inside this room. And Haxel even commits his dash to try and go there. And so does Slime. But again, there's no play that the Titans can make as a team. Even if they kill KSF, that's a 5v5 situation. And you're also, off of this skill, you won't really be able to convert it to anything else. You're using all your cooldowns, you're using your dash here, you are going to get a dash reset, but there's nowhere else you can go for another reset here if you're Haxel. And if you look at Valiant's ult economy, they're completely fine. Costa's going to be able to Valk here, he's going to be able to res mid-fight, so you're still in a very good spot here if you're the Valiant. Bumper chases Kariv, gets the kill, but again, you're splitting. Bumper trades his life for this because Fact Fiction can help him. These guys over here, they do kill KSF, but Haxel also steps into KSF's Venom Mine. KSF has had really good Venom Mines. So we can see Haxel is triggered here because he's triggered. This delays the kill a little bit because he has to deflect. Again, he gets this mini. All of these resources are so important because KSF buys so much time. He draws 2 and he buys so much time with his hacked mini. Custa Valks, Janu's baby gets killed by the mech, and the fight is essentially over. Now KSF dies. And Agilities and Shax can just clean up Haxel and Slime. Something you can also see here, Twilight, obviously it is difficult for him to cross this choke point once the Valiant are set up. So he tries to go for this position again, which is, again, if he can keep this position, that's fine. You can, you can stay alive, but again, you can see that the Valiant are aware of this. So they do want to get this kill again. And if we look at the spawns, still 2 people coming back from spawn. The difference here is that KSF is also coming back from spawn, so he doesn't have this crossfire. There's a little bit of a window here for the Titans, but this should still be pretty much a free kill for the Valiant. However, you have Fact Fiction doesn't fortify the sleep here, so he gets slept, and that's actually pretty huge. Now, Twilight still pretty much should die here, and he does. But also, as the Valiant are pushing up to kind of get this kill, Sumitsu sneaks up and tries to kill Kariv here. KSF pops his walls, but it's just a little bit too late. Sumitsu is already within EMP range here, and Kariv is kind of a little bit abandoned here. So if you look at how this transpires, you have Twilight dying, and then Sumitsu solo EMPing and killing Kariv. So still not too terrible if you're the Valiant. You've traded 1 for 1. You got the EMP out. Obviously, you lose your trance, and Gusta, even though he does have res, is going to be difficult to get the res off here. The Titans are ready to take the space already, so still kind of anyone's fight. If Fact Fiction wasn't slept here, the Valiant would still be in a pretty good spot, and they still are. If you think about it, Shax still has his ultimate. He has translocated back, so he's going to come back here. So he is a little bit out of the fight. Both KSF and him are out of the fight, and now actually the Titans can force a fight in this area without having to worry about the crossfire. So this is a decent opening by the Titans. But really what it comes down to is can, and also very, very nice play here by Agilities. If we take a look at this from Agility's point of view, nice little kill here on Sumitsu. One-shot Sumitsu. So still good spot for the Valiant. You're 1 man up. You have lost control of the platform. You are a little bit shoved in. Shax is out of position. It's going to take a little while for him to get back into the fight. I probably would have liked him to have his translocator maybe a little closer to the platform once KSF died, because when he dies, then this takes you pretty far out of the fight. So he has a lot of distance to cover here to help with his EMP. And now it just becomes a case of, can the Titans get their ultimates off? They are already 1 man down, but Bumper has his ultimate, so does Slime, so Haxel is almost there. But still, like, they're not very healthy here. They don't have Twilight, it's hard to heal up, so, and you can see, all of them are low, so it's very difficult here. And now if you're Shax, this is really a perfect opening for you to EMP all of these guys, right? Like, if you just come out here, you can grab Slime, and you can take Bumpers and Slime's ultimates off the board here. And then it's a free cleanup for you. Agilities also farms his ult. Then you have the tire for the next fight when Haxel comes in with his blade, and this is potentially a full hold. But this is where it goes a little bit sideways. So Shaxx is a little bit greedy here. Obviously, he doesn't see these guys, so he doesn't know how good of an EMP angle he has here. And he just kind of goes for pressure on Bumper. They are one man up here. So, you know, it's understandable that he's a little bit greedy. Almost kills Bumper. And now he realizes that he needs to EMP. But now that when he EMPs here, a lot of space is already created. Bumper's already splitting the team. He's pushing Custa here. You have lost a lot of map control. Shaxx does hit Janu, which should lead to the DMEC. Haxel shouldn't die, but he needs to wait out the EMP. So still not lost for the Valiant, but it is a little bit tricky, especially since Kariv still in spawn, right? So you don't have the trans for the for Haxel's blade. But still, it's going to be a scrappy fight, and if you're the Titans, that's how you want it. You want a scrappy fight. Nice little beat here by Haxel, by Slime. Does not hit Haxel though. Bumper, very big play, killing Custa. Custa tries to shift out, but obviously since Kariv is dead and he can't orb Custa, this is a very easy kill for Bumper in this 1v2. Obviously, you don't have, or Custa rather, doesn't have a safe pivot, and he kind of just gets manhandled there in the corner. So both of your supports are down here. So not a great spot here if you are the Valiant. But still doable. Janu still low after that EMP. Shaxx should get the DMEC here on the left-hand side. Agilities is in trouble against Bumper, but he blows him up. This Bongo's effect is actually really huge because KSF and Agilities can blow up Bumper really quickly. So still, you're in a good spot. Get the hack. Shaxx gets the hack on Slime. DMEX Janu on the point. And still, like, you're so split if you are the Titans. You still have... Twilight trailing the play. You don't have a lot of sustain here. Haxel does go for a solo blade on Shaxx. Shaxx actually translocated into this room, so Haxel going for this blade knows that Shaxx doesn't have a translocator, but once again, he can't really get much more than this. Even if he gets Shaxx, it's going to be difficult for him to convert any more kills because he has no support from his backline, and he is half HP. And that's pretty much what happens here. Immediately, Agilities also pops his tire to try and counter the blade, possibly not knowing the fact that Haxel is that low. And still, you keep having these trades. Tire goes out, it goes around the left side. Now Suminsu is going for Agilities' body here. He wants to get Agilities, while Jano's probably gonna have to tank the tire. But yeah, the big thing here is that Sumitsu goes for Agilities, and Kariv is just around the corner. So Sumitsu doesn't see this. He doesn't know that Kariv is coming back. And again, pretty big, because he ends up getting the kill. And this, again, a trade. So you're still trading. Now Slime is a little bit out of position because he pushed up to help Sumitsu. Presumably they communicated in regards to that. But I think this is a little bit of a disconnect because Kariv and KSF could have just killed Slime, but KSF actually grappled up here, where Twilight could have easily killed him. You see, he hits the nade. Now Kariv pops off, he kills both of those guys over there. KSF does survive, so you end up grinding this fight out as Valiant. So the Titans did force a scrappy engage, but they didn't really make a coordinated play at any point. Everyone was making solo plays. Everyone was doing their own thing. The way Janu got DMEC, the way Haxel bladed, the way Sumitsu went for the body of Agilities, it was just kind of sloppy overall. But this is where sort of the issue happens and where it all breaks down a little bit. Because you have 37 seconds left. You've used your major ultimates for your Titans. You're kind of screwed, but These spawns are so long. And Custa, to get back into the fight faster, went Lucio. Agilities went Genji. And Genji wouldn't be terrible if Titans stayed on what they are on now, but they just go 3-3. And I really like this by the Titans, because now you have a shield to play behind. Now you can sort of slowly force KSF out of this position. You don't have to worry about the Junkrat poke if you're the Titans. So I really like the swap. That being said, still very possible to win here for the Valiant. You have the trance. It is a very long path to the point, and the Titans don't really have time to rest shield a lot because it is 16 seconds. Someone has to rush the point. It gives you a lot of openings, and I think this is a very easy full hold for the Valiant potentially. Sumitsu even peaks early, takes a lot of damage, wastes his bubble, but then in fact uses bubble like this to try and catch Sumitsu, and then this bubble doesn't really get any value. I think if he just held it a little bit longer, then again, if he held it a little bit longer, if he shot it over shield, maybe John eats it. There's a lot of what ifs, but if he could have potentially shot the ball a little bit higher and kind of sucked Bumper up in the air together with Hoxley here, I think this, the map is over right here because Bumper's shield is already at 500. His shield breaks, and there's no way the Titans can cross here, or at least it would give a much longer opening for KSF to potentially get kills, for Shaxx to get hacks, but also Shaxx isn't pressuring the shield. So I think even if the pull doesn't happen, if Shaxx just uncloaks here and shoots the shield, I think you break that shield and you get a lot of value and you stop the Titans right here. But Shaxx also goes for a little bit of a flank here, which, again, I don't really think it's necessary because you know the Titans are in a rush. They're not going to fight you here. They're just going to rush to the point. So a couple of really, really tiny details that give the Titans a chance here. The hack goes through. They all take a lot of damage anyway, but they eventually cover the distance. Janu gets to mark KSF here. Shaxx gets forced out. So now you've kind of lost a lot of control here if you're the Valiant, as you can see. You haven't gotten a kill. Agilities can't really do much against that composition. You can't really dive. Even if you coordinate something with Shaxx, is going to be very, very difficult to get stuff done with the Genji here. Janu does very well, pushes away, draws aggression from Shaxx. I think he bombs here because Shaxx would have probably gotten the hack otherwise. He zones these guys out, and look at how much space Janu has created now. Now you have a point presence with the Titans. You have, with a 3 composition, you have Twilight with a nano boost, so really just kind of not really much you can do if you're the Valiant. Kariv has his trans, but it's not impactful enough. The Titans put nano on Sumitsu. He pressures the choke point as well, and the fight kind of just ends. As soon as the Titans get to the point with 3-3, it's pretty much over. That being said, because the Valiant are playing a Sombra bunker, a 3 DPS bunker, Shaxx does stay on Sombra. So even the Valiant swap all of their heroes, they still have a very strong ultimate to stop the Titans to snowball here. And the Titans aren't coming in with much, so Shaxx just needs kind of a big EMP here. Now, they did bleed out on point very late, the Valiant did, and you can see Kariv is still a spawner here. Kariv just spawned and he went Ana, because obviously he didn't have his trance anymore. So this fight starts with the Titans a man up, and obviously Shaxx has to be patient and wait for the rest of his team to join up. The rest of the team is just coming up, so you have to pretty much give up ticks here if you are the Valiant. And but you should be able to stabilize here with your EMP. I kind of like this split. You put Fact Fiction on one side. It is a little bit risky. Potentially you could see the Titans just shove Fact Fiction really hard here. Maybe if they speed boost really quickly onto him, maybe Shaxx can't really catch up to the play with his EMP, but ultimately they boop him back. Fact Fiction is safe. They can't really chase him. Fact Fiction doesn't rush it. He waits for the rest of his team to come up. He waits for Shaxx to get into position, and then he starts moving forward. So good distance management there by Fact to not give himself up for a potential rush here. And now Shaxx just gets a perfect angle and he can EMP and stop the snowball. Now, this is where one of the biggest throws happens. So a lot of things go right for the Valiant here. If you look at the ultimates here, a very dire situation for the Valiant. They only have the beat, whereas the Titans are pretty much coming back with 6 ultimates. They have 5. Janu's going to have his mid fight as well. So the odds of the Valiant winning this fight are very, very low. They will need a lot of clutch plays, and they also pretty much need the Titans to mess their ult economy up and make mistakes as well and give something for free. Especially considering that Shaxx gets slept here while he's going for a little bit of farm. And again, the game should be over right here. But if we look at KSF's perspective, he knows that Shax has slept. And look at how close he gets here. Just barely sneaks in the bubble before Bumper gets the pin. If this pin goes through and Shax dies, game is over, right? You're facing 5 ultimate rush by the Titans. All of you are out of position here. If you're the Valiant, you don't have a lot of space to back. Well, you do have a lot of space to back up, but you've used a lot of cooldowns here to try and save Shax. So if Shax dies, this game is over. But this bubble by KSF really, really clutch. Still, you're in a lot of trouble here if you are the Valiant. Now, if you think about this, it's going to be very risky for Fact in general. It's going to be risky for Fact to stand this close because he's just susceptible to the rush. But at the same time, he can't start further back because if he stands further back, he can't back up and still contest the point. Now, if you are the Titans, they pop the rally first, as they should. And really, they don't need to do much else. Just by popping the rally, they could rush Fact Fiction, and that should potentially force out Custa's beat, because you're just going to have so much pressure on him. You could even potentially Nano Bumper. So Nano Bumper and Rally 100% should force out the beat, because Fact is going to be under so much pressure. He's playing close to the corner, so that should be how the fight plays out. As soon as the beat comes out, Sumitsu has a free Graviton because there's no Diva Matrix on the side of Valiant. Fight over, right? But if you look at how Titans play it, and again, to win this fight, the Valiant need to play it perfectly and then get a little bit of help from the Titans. And this is where they get the help. So Sumitsu immediately uses his grab and solo grabs Fact. And again, look at the positions. Fact is not getting out of this position regardless. No one is in a position to peel for him. Everyone is spread out for the grab because they are afraid of Sumitsu's grab. So Sumitsu really bails the Valiant out here by grabbing this early because Fact is kind of screwed anyway. Because he uses this, you've used 2 major ultimates very, very early. Now, while this is happening, Shax is also coming in here. And now the beat comes out. So if you're Custa, you're happy because you get to beat Sumitsu's grab, which should never happen considering how many resources the Titans have at their disposal. So he uses his beat and he can save Fact with it. KSF also uses his target bubble to try and save him. And Shax, very, very important here, gets the hack on Sumitsu. And this is extremely important because Sumitsu was 1 second away from his self bubble and 3 seconds away from his target bubble. And these are major, major, major cooldowns. Because Sumitsu took this position expecting his self bubble to come off cooldown, and then he would be able to overextend here and just kind of kill Fact. But because he gets hacked, that cooldown gets taken off the board. So now he is taking much more damage than he anticipated because of that manual hack. Bumper also gets Nano now. So he gets Nano after the grab. So still, if you look at what has happened so far, in the first couple of seconds, the Titans have used 3 ultimates to solo grab Fact Fiction, while the Valiant have only used beat. And they're still losing HP-wise because of how much damage Sumitsu is taking off of this hack. And Sumitsu almost dies. Still, Fact Fiction should be dying here. Right, like he's still completely out of position. It's going to be very difficult for him to get out. But this is where the Titans kind of throw the game away. If we look at Slime's POV here, boops Fact Fiction away. Even though Bumper gets slept here, he immediately gets woken up. So he would still be in range to swing for Fact. Custa doesn't have his speed boost. There's no way Fact would be able to get out of this position. He would be 100% dead with everyone from the Titans able to shoot him. But because Slime boops him back, presumably to try and save Sumitsu, but Sumitsu, he's still fine with the nade. Because he boops back Fact, now Fact has room to fall back. And now you can slow down the tempo a little bit. Also, you can see Custa moves in for the boop. So really, 2 boops, one on Fact and one on Bumper, puts this much distance between Fact Fiction. And now Fact can easily kite this out. So if we kind of reevaluate what has happened, you've used 3 ultimates for 1. And also, Janu is really overextending here for Kariv. Because presumably he expects his team to just press W, and just kill Fact. That's what they should be doing. They had 5 ultimates to start the fight. There's no other way things could transpire. And when he held this position, Janu's job is just zone out Kariv, make sure he doesn't get to heal Fact, take away that resource away from Fact, and then his team should clean up the rest. But because of those double boops, his team isn't ready to follow up. So really, this is just Janu overextending as a result. So you can see immediately Shax, Agilities, KSF, they all turn around to focus Janu, who is completely out of position. The Titans are pushing Fact, but he has gotten time to heal up now. And he is kiting very well here. Still, within one swing, within a second, he's half HP. Imagine if I was here. He would have completely evaporated. And those double boops really pay off. Beyond that, Janu, because of his overextension, is tanking so much damage here. Fact gets armor pack. He gets healed up a little bit by Kariv, and Janu gets demeched. And now Slime uses his ultimate. He uses his ultimate presumably to try and save the mech. So really, really horrendous ultimate usage by the Titans here. Again, if you think about it, if we kind of tally up the score, Custa's beat for Suminsu's, Haxal's, Slime's, Twilight's ultimates, with Janu also getting demet in that ult off the burst. So essentially, you lose 5 of your ultimates, and you're half a player down. I count the mech as half a player. So just horrendous. And because the fight dragged out like that, now we have KSF coming up on an ultimate, you have Fact Fiction, you have Kariv coming up on an ultimate, Shax is farming up his as well. So really now you've thrown the fight really, really hard if you're the Titans. Because this beat comes out late as well, it is a complete waste. You can't really get value out of it. And also you don't have a defensive ult for KSF's Graviton that is coming up now. So really, just on all fronts, a ton of individual mistakes by the Titans, and that double boop on the Reinhardts really just gave the Valiant an opening. As you can see, Haxel is overextended, he gets hacked. Now Kariv can relieve some pressure and peel with his nano. Now there's no way you're going to kill Fact Fiction. Even though his shield is dead, he's fine. He can just whack Haxel. Big shatter here by Bumper, but it doesn't really matter because Agilities already has his rally. He puts the rally in KSF because he knows KSF has his Graviton. Again, very, very nice boop. Let's see, was it? I think Custa, once again. Custa once again boops Bumper. If this pin hits KSF, you can still win this if you're the Titans. But because he boops Bumper, and he did this, I think, 3 times. Back to back to back, he booped away Bumper and really peeled super well for both Fact Fiction and KSF. This boop ensures Bumper misses. Now KSF has a free grab because Slime missed his barrier. So you've thrown out the entirety of your ult economy out the window if you're the Titans. You've fed a new EMP, so now Valiant has another win condition for the next fight, and just really, really sloppy. But also very good place by the Valiant to actually punish that. Good save early on by KSF. Nice, very important and nice hack on Suminsu by Shax. You have the double boops and just excellent peeling by Custa. A lot of big plays here by the Valiant to salvage what seemed like an impossible situation. All right, so heading into the next fight, or just in general, the Titans will probably have one more shot to win a fight. For the rest of the map, they have to rebuild their ult economy. Certainly not going to be this one because Shax has his EMP unless they find a way to shut it down. Now, the Titans path this way to the right side, and if you've seen Paris, anytime the attackers path this way, almost always the Sombras are going to hide in this position. And the only way the Titans can potentially win this fight, and there is a way, right? Twilight is going to hit his ult before Kariv. Suminsu will get his ult as well. So if the Titans can spy check this and find Shax, force his Translocator out, the Valiant have to give up this space, spread out over here. Shax probably has to take another position. Suminsu, Twilight get their ults up. They can take a little bit of cover. Maybe you can survive. That's the only way you can win this fight if you're the Titans. But if you look at what the Titans do, they just move in through this choke point and no one is spy checking. So if some of these guys would be hiding, and say Janu and Bumper take the corner first, and they just spy check both corners, and they spot Shax, that's a potential win condition. But look at how late they are at doing that. He's already coming out on Invis, then Janu turns around, and 6-man EMP. The Titans just walk into it, and they obviously get cleaned up. So again, sloppy spy checking here by the Titans. But still, going into the next fight, they are hitting their ult spikes a little bit faster than the Valiant are. That being said, the Valiant are coming up in a shatter. They will be able to get KSF's ultimate. This should be a pretty even fight. Kariv has his nano boost for the peel, and again, good spacing here by the Valiant. In fact, is playing a close corner, but he knows he's gonna get peel. When the Titans push, they can't really swing on anyone else other than Fact here. And if they only swing on him, you can mitigate the damage pretty easily with the nano boost. So again, smart position here by the Valiant. The Titans go super aggressively on Fact. He gets nano very early, and look at how aggressive. Like Slime wants to boop in. All they want to do is isolate Fact and just kill him. But he does get the nano, and now Bumper is in a position where he can only swing on Fact, but Fact can potentially, with the nano boost, swing on everyone. You can also see Shax coming in here from a nifty little off angle and getting the hack on Hoxel, which is also very, very important because you're taking away some major cool notes here. If you just use this whip shot, but you take away the armor pack, you take away the bash, that's a lot of peel potential that you're just taking off the board if you're Shax, and a lot more freedom for Fact Fiction to do his thing. Now, Twilight reacts to this pretty quickly, and he does go for a sleep. And it's extremely, extremely close to hitting. It actually looks like it almost goes through him. Look at how close that is. But it whizzes past him. Now, if that sleep hits, this could easily be the Titans' fight. They just turn around, they kill Shax, they heal up, and then they repush. But because that sleep doesn't hit, Shax gets to keep that position. Fact gets booped in, but he's fine. He's very healthy. He has the nano boost. Twilight panics and nanos Bumper so that he can swing back, but Hoxel is already too low. And look at the health bars of the Titans. Look at how hard they lost this trade just because of the positioning and the nano and the hack on Hoxel. So they end up wasting the nano boost here as well. But the Titans still want to fight. Not anymore. They realize they can't find without Hoxel, just fall back. And this is where the Titans could have easily have gotten punished. So Shax super, super aggressive here, looking for some ult charge. He does want to get his EMP before the next fight, but this is not how you get it. Not uncloaking in front of shield with 5 people in front of you. Even if you get a lot of resources, the resources are going to disappear very, very quickly. He does get the armor pack here. Does KSF have a bubble? He does not. So if KSF doesn't have a bubble, he can never go for this because the sleep dart is coming, right? So this is very sloppy by Shax. Gets slept and deleted. Could have thrown the game here. However, because this happened so quickly, Hoxel is still in spawn. So even now, this is still a 5 versus 5. But I think the Titans rush it a little bit. Once again, Custa does not have his ultimate yet, but if you think about this graph comes out on KSF. He solo grabs KSF, but the rest of his team can't follow up on this distance. They can't catch up to this play that quickly. Sumitsu also doesn't have his bubbles, so it's going to be difficult for Bumper to walk up and swing into this or pin. The grab is going to be close to expiring by the time he gets to that point, right? So Sumitsu gets a little bit of ahead of himself here. And if we look at the support play from the Titans, good healing here. Custa, once again, big boop on Bumper. Boops Bumper away from the grab. But again, this is only possible because Sumitsu rushes things. Because he doesn't have a bubble. If Bumper has a bubble here, Custa cannot make this play. And because of that, again, too much distance between the Titans and Sumitsu because he overextends and he tries to go for this play on his own, he gets solo grabbed out of position. Kariv also hitting a sleep on Janu, so there's no damage mitigation. So Suminsu automatically is just dead here. Custa maybe could have held the beat. It beats for good measure. And now the Valiant are chasing staggers. They want these staggers. Because they used the beat, they really want these staggers. And they get them. So very, very nice by the Titans. So now, I mean by the Valiant. Now the Titans can't really get back for a proper fight. Shax gets a little bit of resources here. Goes for another farm rotation. Sumitsu goes McCree. Not sure why. Doesn't really matter because Shax already has his ultimate. Once again, the Titans don't have time. They just have to rush to the point. And they can't touch it. Alright, so heading into the Valiant's attack, they're opting for a triple DPS with an Orisa. The Titans are playing triple support variation with the Sombra. So again, Titans just want to play an up-tempo style. The Valiant are just going to slowly take map control, going to push away the front line, poke everyone away, protect each other, force the Titans to dive in, and then it just comes down to who executes a little bit better. Certainly you don't have a lot of support for, or a lot of ways to deal with the Pharah, but basically that's how the matchups should play out. And as you can see, first shield goes down in main for Fact Fiction. He's already looking to poke away the tanks. We see Shax taking a little bit of an off angle here to shoot Bumper in the back. Bumper gets resources and jumps out. And now slowly the Valiant can kind of inch their way forward. KSF takes a little bit of space here on the platform. Costa close to getting picked here by Twilight. Twilight playing this angle, he can't really help as much in the dive main, but he can certainly mark the pharmacy. He has a lot of nice cover here, and he can kind of cover this angle pretty well, which means that the Titans, they anticipate that Valiant is going to push here, and this is where they want to execute the dive. This is where Twilight can potentially find nade angles. He can still mark this space and pressure Custa and agilities. So the Titans are happy to give up this space early. Now let's see. Does Shax get hack the mini here? What does Shax do? He doesn't hack the mini. He goes around for a bit of a flank. And the dive starts. So agilities and Custa very high up in the air. Twilight is going to peek out here and is going to have an angle on them. But the Valiant have crossed in pretty safely. That's why I would have potentially have liked Shax to just... Because Shax's job really is just to peel off the dive. The only way the Titans win is if they dive play an up-tempo style. So Shax is really just have to peel it off. He has to look for hacks on the dive. And I think hacking this mini could have been potentially beneficial. You have a huge advantage backing into that corner, but still, Shax is in position to get a hack on this dive. Now, very nice sleep here by Kariv. Sumitsu is looking for a hack, and he does get a hack Fact Fiction, so Fact can't fortify himself here. But he's already put out a shield, so he has a little bit of protection here early. Now, Custa shifts in here for the heal, which is very, very risky, because now he's putting himself in a position where Twilight can shoot him, but also everyone else can pretty much shoot Custa. So very, very risky stuff here with Custa, and I think Kariv, in fact, are pretty much okay in this spot. And Custa realizes it. He starts healing Kariv, but Kariv still, he has his nade, he has the mini, he's fine. While Custa really isn't, right? He's already going low. Twilight sees him, picks him off. Sumitsu, Janu, they all focus him. However, Bumper, since he got slept in this spot, while everyone else was focusing the Mercy, the sort of the little bunker here in the corner can focus Bumper. Bumper should die. Hoxel also gets hacked, which is, again, very important, because if Hoxel isn't hacked here, he can push in, be a lot more aggressive here, just shove into the face of the Valiant. But 1-for-1 trade, you do lose your Mercy, so it hurts quite a bit, but you're still kind of happy in that little corner. Agilities gets picked off as well, so, you know, definitely by design. The Titans gave this space. They marked the pharmacy very well. Haksal also pushes in from this position and gets Kariv. But KSF goes pretty big here. He kills Slime. He picks off Haksal. And remember, spawns are much better here for the attacking side. And this is where sort of the mistake happened. Again, big disconnect. So Janu can't really push into these two people. He can probably get a kill, but his mech is always going to get traded. And if he makes this play, he needs to have someone else with him. Whereas if you look at Suminsu, he doesn't help Janu. He goes for a 1v1 against Shax. And Shax has already hacked his mini. So Shax has the advantage here. He has the corner. He has the mini pack. Grabbing the mini makes the difference, right? He grabs this mini. Suminsu thought he had the edge here, but the mini saves him, and he just dies. So that disconnect costs him a lot. Now Janu shifts in anyway, looking for these kills. Does get KSF, but he gets traded. Now Shax has his ultimate. You just got 2 very late kills for the Valiant. You're going to get all the space in the world, and it's going to be very, very difficult for the Titans to take this back. I like what Kariv does here. Takes the furthest possible angle away from the enemies. He grabs the high ground, so it's going to be very difficult to get to him. Twilight, Nano's bumper here. And I love this dragon by KSF. It just completely negates Nano from bumper. Bumper can't do anything with it. He has to wait out a lot of it. Look at how much damage bumper took inside that room. Also, because Kariv took this high ground, Suminsu can't get him. You know, if it was here, Suminsu could get him a lot easier. Maybe Haksal, maybe Twilight could shoot him. Kariv, a lot of cover here. Very nice positioning when he had the time. And you can see Sumitsu is taking this long path. Sumitsu is essentially out of the fight, trying to push Kariv out of the fight. And Shax still has his ultimate here. There's, Haksal gets hacked because someone has to contest because of how good KSF's dragon was. So you're basically just throwing bodies on the point if you are the Titans. Now, the Valiant tried to snowball this, and I don't mind this. They have a lot of ultimates. The Titans have slow spawns. You can push in as a 6-man unit here. The Titans should be able to get positions here because you don't have Lucio for the Valiant. But still, I don't mind trying to snowball here. Now, the biggest thing is like you just have to dodge Suminsu's EMP. So who are the biggest targets who have to dodge his EMP? Certainly Custa, because if Augusta can dodge the EMP and get his Valk off, he can do a lot with that. If Shax can dodge it, he can counter EMP. Basically, anyone with an ultimate, very important that they dodge Suminsu's EMP. Sumitsu is setting up here behind the backline, and this is nice. Agilities and Custom make their entrance. It is a little bit risky here because, again, you're worried about Twilight, but Twilight is here, so you can just play this off angle away from him and just try to dodge the EMP. You can see everyone is committing to the call of Sumitsu's EMP, but not really because Bumper is jumping on Custa. Right? The EMP is main. This is where you need to convert your kills. But Bumper is going for the pharmacy. And if no one else is going for the pharmacy, if Twilight isn't going for the pharmacy, if Janu isn't going for the pharmacy, this is a waste of a jump. Shax also dodges it, and so does Custa. So Shax is in a position here to counter EMP the dive. And he also gets Bumper, who again is kind of out of position here. If Bumper would have potentially jumped in, maybe he can kill Kariv because Kariv got EMP'd. He doesn't have the nade to protect himself. But again, sloppy by the Titans here. A good counter EMP, but Shax is low, and he has his back turned to a lot of people. So he needs to be careful here. He should just Transligate out here. Haksal dies. And I think this is where the biggest mistake happens. Agilities commits to the barrage, and he commits to the barrage just for the mech. He does think he's quite safe here, and you know, he is not in a lot of trouble, but you have to consider the fact that there are no resources for this barrage. There's no Matrix, there's no Zarya bubble. So a lot of the times when you go for barrages with these compositions, you're going to be trading your life for maybe one or two more lives, right? Like you're going for an EMP barrage. If you kill 2 and die, maybe you get res. Good trade for you. But in this situation, you already killed Hoxel, so I really don't see, I would love to see the Valiant just play slow here, play off of Custos Valk. Janu is a free kill. There's no one who can help Janu, and Janu is hacked. And you'd be fine. And if we look at Twilight's perspective, he lobs in a nade that kills Shax because he didn't translocate out, but the splash damage also hits agilities. Which means even though you have 2 healers, now Slime and Sumitsu here can just finish off agilities. And obviously Twilight. And this is, I think, where the Valiant kind of lose their chance to snowball, because they lose 2 of their major DPS heroes. If they only lost 1, if they only lost Shax, maybe they could kill Janu, reshield here, res Shax, and then just kind of win the fight. But because they lose both, and this gives the Titans a numbers advantage, now Bumper is feeling confident to just jump in with his Primal and just block the res. As soon as Bumper jumps in here and he has his Primal, you can never get the res off. So even though his Primal gets forced out here, he pretty much needs to do that, because you don't want to give Custa the free res. Custa also committing here on the baby, trying to get the baby. They do get the baby. And you're still okay. Again, the Valkyrie is super strong in that little corridor, but the issue is just you don't have enough damage. You can't really put yourself on the point. Bumper can stall a lot of time and use corners here with Twilight sustaining him. So Dragon comes out. Very difficult to get value out of the Dragon here. Bumper doing a very good job just playing corners here. Hoxel gets his ultimate, and now it's over. Now you can't really win this fight if you're the Titans. Janu also finishes the fight off with a nice little bomb. All right, and this is sort of the moment where both teams just flex over to the Somber Goats, and pretty much are just going to play out the mirrors for the rest of the map. The Valiant are moving up, and Shax derps a little bit here. He puts down the Translocator in a safe spot, goes over to pressure the point. Obviously, good Translocator spot. There's no one who can destroy this. And as you can see, seems like he just misclicks and destroys it himself while he's being shot on point. So he dies. And this slows down the Valiant's progress a little bit. The Valiant would have still been behind in ultimates heading into the next fight. They probably can't really win this next fight because Sumitsu is going to come up on his EMP before Shax's, and Slime also has his beat. They have that edge. Just like sort of, I think Custa did as well when it was the other way around. And again, same situation playing out. Now you just kind of have to tank the EMP if you're the Valiant. Again, I really want teams to just try and clear this corner first. You know, I give Valiant a little more credit. Kariv at least doesn't step forward. He's waiting. He's anticipating the EMP. He should maybe a little closer to this corner. But someone should be checking this. Just shoot and check this. But once again, no one does that. And the EMP hits anyway. So again, just a complete cleanup for the Titans as well. Now, heading into the next fight, Shax does have his ultimate, but you don't have much to pair with it. And also, naturally, the Titans know this, so the most common way to counter this is you just go on point, you let your Reinhardt stay on point, and you spread out. You spread out very well. And if you're the Titans, you have so much to peel with. You have the Nano, you have the Beat, and neither of these supports are ever going to get EMP'd, so you have a lot of peel for Bumper. If you're the Valiant, on the other hand, the only choice you really have is to essentially solo EMP Bumper, or maybe try and get someone else with him and just blow him up as fast as possible before the Nano comes out, before the Beat comes out. Maybe you can blow him up even with over the Nano, but you just have to kill him before the Beat comes in. And as you can see, that's sort of what the Valiant are setting up for here. Shax gets a good EMP because he also gets Janu. So Janu can't throw out his target bubble. So reasonable opening to potentially kill Bumper here. The issue I have is that the Valiant haven't quite closed the distance yet. I would like Agilities to be a little closer so that he can immediately bash and you know, because you have to burst Bumper really quickly. But the damage is a little late. Kariv also switches his target a little bit late, and every single second matters here. Nano hits. Now the bash comes in, and now the beat gets out. But you probably can't really kill him anyway through the nano and the beat. So usually you're just gonna lose this fight anyway if you're the Titans, unless the supports make a mistake for the Titans. So you get the beat, you get the nano, you get a lot of the peeling ultimates off the board. You have quite a few ultimates to work with here if you're the Valiant, but you're still dealing with Sumitsu, who's coming up close to his EMP. If Titans just slow down the pace a little bit and farm that up, they should be okay. You also have the nano, Janu, who can at any point engage with his Graviton. Custom doesn't have his ultimate. The Titans don't have to be scared of the EMP anymore. So they have that going for them, so they can just really be very, very aggressive here. But they fall back a little bit, and this is where a big mistake happens. Janu is super greedy here. He's looking for energy, understandably so. He's only at 33, but it's super risky because you've already closed the distance, or the Valiant has already closed the distance, and when he uses his self bubble, he just becomes super susceptible to the dive. This also happens mid-rotation. Sumitsu has already translocated out. The Valiant have forced him out. Twilight is mid-rotation, so you don't have a lot of resources for Janu. So very big mistake by Janu here. And immediately, the Valiant notice this, and they rush him. Grab off the board. This is a huge, huge opening for the Valiant. In fact, it doesn't hit his Shatter. Hack doesn't quite go off on Haksal. And but Sumitsu is coming up on his EMP still, so still a decent spot for the Titans. You can still win, but you can't give up too much cap progress. You can only give up essentially one tick. And Kariv also, because of all of the space that is gained, because the Valiant can push all the way up here, he can easily spread from the rest of his team, and he can potentially counter EMP Sumitsu's EMP here. Counter trance his EMP. Bumper takes a lot of damage. Very difficult to contest here because you have lost Janu. You don't have any bubbles. Haksal does his best. EMP does come out. Kariv dodges it and counters it. But the Titans have EMP Shatter. Very hard to counter this ultimate. And you have Janu who will be back in the fight soon. EMP Shatter hits. Agilities and Kariv do their best to peel. They peel it off. I do believe Agilities might have booped Bumper here again. Or maybe he wasn't. He was hacked. Either way, pin misses. And KSF looks for a deep grab on the backline. And again, I think this is another one of those situations where it goes a little bit deep. Not that it really matters, because whenever he grabs first here, Janu always has the free counter grab to stop the follow-up. So because Janu is back in the fight, he can just snipe his grab, and as you can see, even though the Valiant are trying to follow up on it, the entirety of the backline is caught here. The Kakasta has also gotten rehacked by Sumitsu, so even if he had his beat, he wouldn't be able to use it. Nana also goes off on Bumper to save him, and the trade still favors the Titans. Now, ultimate-wise, because of Janu's mistake, the Titans end up using too much. They used both EMP and the Graviton, so they don't have any engagement tools for the next fight. Janu and Sumitsu are both behind Shax and KSF in those ultimates. Titans are starting this fight without any ultimates at all, whereas the Valiant has a lot of room to work with the EMP, with the beat, so they just want to take this fight as soon as possible. You don't want to give the Titans any room to breathe. Shax gets the last bit of his ult charge here, and you just want to rush Bumper here, just like we saw a couple of fights ago, right? Valiant just want to pretty much, even a solo, EMP on Bumper. Anyone else is good too, but basically you just want to close distance and try to kill it. And I like the patience here. Like, Shax holds it a little longer, and the Valiant closed the distance a bit faster. And yeah, they just go kind of balls to the wall here. They EMP, they beat it at the same time. Bumper just gets shut down, and the fight is over. All right, so heading into EICHEN-VALIANT, the conclusions that we can draw so far is that the Valiant will never ever give the Titans a 3-3 mirror. They're trying to do everything possible to force Titans off of 3-3, and naturally very understandable because the Titans have pretty much the best or the second best, maybe the third best player position for position in a 3-3 mirror. Second pretty much only to the San Francisco Shock in certain positions. So you just want to force guys off of their comfort picks. And you can see that here with the starting composition of the Titans. They're starting with a McCree. So Mitsu's on the McCree. And this really isn't a great composition. This is a good composition if the Valiant roll out and play potentially what they've locked in now with this 3 DPS setup. You have something to mark the Pharah, but the Valiant are much more flexible. If the Valiant were kind of a one-trick team and they could only play this composition, sure, you could potentially start with this. So already, before anything has happened in this game, the Valiant are already winning because they've forced Sumitsu off of a comfort pick, and now the only thing the Valiant really need to do is to go either Somber Goats or Goats. Goats certainly beats what the Titans are playing here with the McCree, but so does Somber Goats, because without the Zarya, Bumper really can't trade in the front line. Sure, there is no Matrix on the side of the Valiant, but you still have a shield to worry about. It's still going to be difficult for Sumitsu to sneak in damage, and again, Bumper has so much fewer resources to work with because he doesn't have the Zarya bubbles. And just damage-wise, you're kind of losing out because KSF eventually is going to get charged up, so a difficult predicament here for the Valiant. Bumper gets hacked here. Let's see. Yeah, just a frontline hack. Shaxx is just pushing behind the shield. They want to shoot the shield down. Bumper, even if he doesn't get hacked, he doesn't really want to engage in a straight-up trade. This composition doesn't fare well in kind of all-in fights. You want to give McCree room to work with, but again, very difficult to create room here. KSF pressures up a little bit because there's no shield. He gets charged up, and already this early in the fight, he's at 85. So now that Bumper does put up a shield, it's going to be difficult for him to maintain his shield health. And slowly you can see the Valiant are taking space. Very, very nicely by Kariv. So Bumper wants to kind of hold the corner of the point, kite back, maybe Fact's shield goes low, and then you can use off angles to potentially win this fight. You can see KSF is obviously taking a lot of damage here, but this sleep makes it so the Bumper takes a lot of free damage. He also eats the nade, and remember what we talked about, no Zarya, right? Sumitsu is on the McCree. As soon as the nade hits, if Janu doesn't eat it, there's nothing to bubble this off. So if this was a normal trade, Sumitsu's on the Zarya, he bubbles it off, you can still win this trade relatively easily if you're the Titans. But as soon as the nade hits, it hits Haksal as well, you're just losing so hard HP-wise. Shaxx overextends a little bit here and gets hit by, he gets stunned. Obviously, a little bit tricky for Shaxx because he has to deal with double stuns here. He has to be a little more careful and gets caught, but the nade from Kariv essentially just wins the fight because Kariv falls. So now he can just contest the point with a shield. Like if you look at Sumitsu now, there's nothing he can really do here. All of his damage is negated. He's just shooting shields. No way you can really take space back here. Kariv also coming up on a nano, much faster than Twilight, because they took all of that damage, and then Twilight didn't really get to heal his front time because of Kariv's nade. Good little pressure by Agilities from an off angle. Haksal tries to get close to contest because Bumper still quite far away, so the only one who can really contest are Janu and Haksal. Haksal tries to contest but takes too much damage, and there's just no way you can really win this fight. Fact shield does drop. This is a potentially opening to get some kills, but the health bars are just too low. You're just not healthy enough if you are the Titans. And also KSF has gotten, because there was no shield, he got to free farm with that energy advantage. Well, advantage. There is no Zarya on Titans, so he can potentially just close this out with a grab, and he does. Now, heading into the second point, it's interesting what the Titans do, because in general, you would see Sumitsu just go Zarya here, and play the mirror matchup, right? But because Suman Su goes Sombra, it seems like the Titans just think that, well, Sombra Goats into Sombra Goats is probably our best matchup. It seems like they're not confident enough in their 3-3 matchup. And it's really, really weird because they should be able to. I think their best chance is still with Suman Su on the Sombra. But not only do you put Suman Su on a pick that isn't a comfort pick for him, because you started with that McCree Diva composition, you are also swapping Janu, who has 75% to his bomb there, I believe. So you're doing a double swap. So the two biggest ultimates that you have in this composition, in the EMP and the Graviton, you're resetting both of them going into the second point. While KSF, who just used his, is starting with an energy advantage and 20%, so he's going to get a second one before Janu gets his first one. And Shax is coming up on his ultimate, so incredibly hard to stop the snowball here if you are the Titans because of this double swap and because of this weird starting composition. Now, obviously, if you would start with this type of composition on the side of the Titans, pretty easy to break with a 3 DPS composition because you don't have the Matrix. So again, because the Titans are a little bit locked in this 3-3, they kind of mind game themselves, it seems like, and the Valiant kind of gained a bit of an edge. I would have liked Suman Su probably to just go Zari here and try to stop the snowball. Now, the Valiant are also hunting for staggers here. And this entire second point is just extremely sloppy for the Titans. So they do get a hack here, I believe, on Custa. Custa overextends a little bit. Gets picked off. The Valiant naturally have to bail. But the Valiant also re-engage. Shax has a nice little off angle here. He's looking for a hack and pressure on Bumper. Fact gets his nano. Obviously, we have the nano for Twilight as well. You're coming up on a lot of ultimates here if you are the Titans, so you can potentially still stop the snowball here before the EMP comes out, especially since Custa is dead and it's kind of difficult to close this distance. But the hack does go off. And when the hack goes off, it means Fact Fiction pretty much has a free shatter if he can find the angle. And you can see how split Titans are. Like how messy this fight is already. Slime tried to come out to peel for Bumper. Bumper kites in here. Slime kites out there. Twilight obviously is up here. He can't really peel for his tanks. So you really need to think about, if you're a Titans, you really need to kite into an area where your supports are going to be able to help you. But now they kind of isolate themselves. Oops. Fact gets slept, stops the momentum a little bit, but still, you're very split here. Shax gets some resources, is a little bit afraid of the burst there, so he translocates out, but yeah, this split is just difficult to guess. And Haxel has to rally just to survive, not to make any kind of proactive play. And Agilities with his own rally can just kind of hold them at bay, while Bumper comes out from the other end. So you are a little bit surrounded here. If you're the Valiant, you still have the high ground advantage if you're the Titans, but Shax is coming up on his EMP. Fact goes in for a pin, gets counter pin. I do believe, let's see, I do believe Janu doesn't have his target. Yeah, he doesn't have his target yet. So this opens up for Kariv to hit this nade. And he does. So this counter pin is terrific for the Valiant, just because they have a target bubble and Titans don't. And I'm sure they've tracked this. So anytime this counter pin happens, you're going to get the hack, you're going to get the nade, and this should be a free kill unless a Slime can beat it off. Which he can. It would be too risky anyway. And the fight ends up being pretty free for the Valiant. So good cooldown tracking. Now, even though the Titans have lost one, they don't fall back. They want to maintain high ground. And the Valiant say, well, you're one down. You don't have a shield up there. You have no business holding the high ground. And you can see Agilities and KSF pushing up here. And so is Shax. And once again, you're just isolated and you're split. If all of these Titans players were regrouping here, not much you can do if you're the Valiant, right? You still have 3 players here. This would be a 3 versus 5 with Bumper reinforcing very quickly. But just split up. Jano splits up, and it becomes essentially kind of an almost 2v1 here, or a 3v1, where they can just isolate Jano and kill him. And Jano obviously has to drop and gets killed. So again, super sloppy regroups here by the Titans, not respecting Valiant enough, and really good heads-up play by the Valiant to chase these kills. Never gives Jano any time to farm or catch up in ultimate. Remember, KSF started at 20%, Jano started at 0%, he's just at 35, KSF is at 100. Naturally, he did start with an energy advantage, but still, these sloppy staggers are just really difficult to deal with. Slime also gets hacked, now you're all over the place. There's no reset. For once, the Titans should just, okay, let's die out on cart, let's reset, let's do a proper fight, right? This is one of the hardest choke points to break through, this bridge. So much boot potential, so much, so difficult for the attackers to kind of break this hold. But the Titans aren't even giving themselves a chance because of how bad they're splitting here. And remember, Shax still has his ultimate, KSF has his ultimate as well. Bumper walks up and starts trading. He doesn't have a Zarya. Zarya is dead. So if this is with the intention to die on point, completely fine. But again, very weird. Custa is zoning out Twilight. Twilight isn't going to die on the card, so Bumper doesn't have any resources. So as long as the Titans don't use any ultimates here, and this is just to die out, I'm fine with this. But they contest the point, and then they start kiting. And look at how spread they are. Slime, how is he ever going to get out of there? Bumper doesn't have speed because Slime is there and he's hacked. He gets rehacked and dies. And now Bumper commits a shatter to try and salvage it. And this is just, again, very sloppy play. In a 3-3 meta, when they have such a huge advantage, they get away with this type of stuff. But this shatter does absolutely nothing. Kusta beats it. Maybe he needed, maybe he didn't. Better safe than sorry. You are going to get a ton of push here anyway. You should get these staggers anyway. So not that big of a deal. And still, Bumper's not falling back. No one's falling back here. Bumper's still fighting. And he gets booped. Jan just comes out with a bubble, but they just keep staggering and staggering and staggering without getting a proper fight. And the Valiant just get this for free. Think about it. The Valiant didn't have to use their EMP nor their Graviton to win second point. The only things they had to use was the Nano Boost and the Beat. And the Nano Boost they have back again. So very sloppy here. Very sloppy play here by the Titans. Now heading into the third point, this is when the Titans have potentially a chance to stop the snowball. And usually this is where you would stop the snowball, but still, like, they're still behind the ult economy. Even though they've lost every fight, but they lost every fight very inefficiently. So now it really becomes a key for the Valiant. Valiant obviously know that Sumitsu has his ultimate, so you just want to kind of get your ultimates out there. Ideally, if KSF can find a Grav, even if he gets EMP'd, that EMP doesn't have as much follow-up. You can force out Slime's Beat that way as well. You immediately get the upper hand, and if you can do that, then you can just EMP the Beat off. So really, this just becomes about who can go first, who can get their Graviton out first. Or, well, Jan doesn't have it, but really that should be the priority for KSF. And then Kariv can obviously dodge it further back. As you can see, he's positioned further back. And he can hit them with a Nano as well. So you never want to let Sumitsu go first here. And you can see it. Look at how proactive KSF is. While Sumitsu is on his flank here, he's looking for this EMP. KSF just goes in and looks for a grab immediately. And Sumitsu not ready at all. But even if Sumitsu is ready here and he EMPs, Curve should get his Nano off on Fact Fiction, in which case you still have to Nano. Sorry, the Slime still has to beat, and then Shax, as long as he dodges it, he can counter EMP, and it's still a one fight for the Valiant. See, beat comes out, EMP comes out, EMP comes out even before Sumitsu gets to EMP, so it actually hits Sumitsu mid while he's going for it. And again, another stagger, and the match is over. And Sumitsu didn't get to use a single EMP the entire fight. He uses it now, but now it's irrelevant. The fight is over. And Janu never even got a single grab because of the double swap off the first point. So again, very predictable snowball considering the double swap, considering the starting composition for the Titans. But just still very, very, very sloppy second point by everyone. Just looked completely chaotic. Looked like your regular ranked game, and good heads up play by the Valiant to punish it all. All right, if we switch sides, as you can see, essential mirror matchups. The difference is Twilight on Zen and Karib on the Ana here. Now, the way, obviously, already a big win for the Valiant because you don't have to deal with the Titans' 3-3. Sumitsu and Janu have swapped roles, so you're already happy about that. But in general, in this mirror matchup, the Titans are going to be out trading Valiant. Obviously going to be a little more difficult for Fact to trade because the Discord, immediately after the bubble trade, the Discord is going to go on him. He's going to take a lot more damage. So really, if you're the Valiant, you're essentially playing the sustain game. You're hoping to hit a big nade and maybe get an advantage off of that. Hopefully, you can farm up a nano boost. Maybe that's going to be the first ult on the board if you're lucky enough and you heal everyone up. And then maybe you can leverage that into winning the first fight. But automatically, the Ana side of the equation is going to be a little more defensive. Your shield is going to take a little more damage. The Discord is going to be difficult to deal with. So in the neutral, at least, that's how the win conditions look for both sides. So for the Valiant to win the fight, Karib really needs to get a lot of value out of his regular cooldowns. And it starts off with him going for this sleep when Bumper gets a bubble. So gets no value a little bit early. So already one big cooldown is off the table. The target bubbles are traded. Both Fact and Bumper got their bubbles. And here, Hoxel pressures from an off angle. Very nice fire strike here by Fact. And this is important because this is kind of where the fight ends. KSF still has his target bubble, 100 energy. Janu also 100 energy. And it becomes about who does what. So Hoxel is just playing this here to try and deny Shax, but he also draws the aggro from KSF. The difference is Janu is blocking damage in this frontline trade. So KSF, if he uses a self bubble, he can only self bubble for himself. He can't self bubble for his team. He's not blocking any damage for his team, right? And automatically, because of that, because this is how the Valiant allocate the resources, you're losing this trade here. And if you look at what happens, Karib goes forward and looks for an 8. Again, he really does have to get value out of these cooldowns. He tries to make a play. He hits a pretty decent nade. But still, you can see how the trade looks. Even though the big nade hits, Fact Fiction is taking so much damage here. Let's see. He has 1,000 on his shield. Bumper also, same shield. Shax does sneak in a hack, but again, KSF is just busy fighting Hoxel, so he's just shooting Hoxel's shield. And all the damage that KSF brings to the fight, it's not going to be here. Whereas Janu is going to be able to pressure Fact, and he's going to be able to shoot Karib. So Karib overextends for this nade a little bit and dies, but basically this is the most important part of it. The fact that Janu, the entirety of the Titans get some kind of value out of Janu's bubble, whereas KSF just kind of uses it for himself. And Hoxel smartly, he doesn't take the duel, he's just drawing the aggro. And now the fight is just kind of over. In fact, the Titans just back off a little bit. They play the slow game. They know that Fact's shield will break. They have no sustain. You wait off the biotic grenade that Karib did hit, and you just kind of close the fight out from there. Now, heading into the next fight, you can still stabilize here. Obviously, the Titans, as you can see, they are hitting their ult spikes a little bit faster than the counterparts on the Valiant, but certainly not an impossible fight. And Sumitsu goes for a little bit of early farm here, trying to get his EMP for this next fight. He wants to have that EMP Shatter combo. And very good pressure by Custa to push him off. As you can see, gets a little bit of resources from agilities, gets the armor pack to pressure him off, forces him behind the shield. And now Sumitsu is behind the shield. You don't have this this off angle anymore. And Kariv is, I also like Kariv's position. Good nade angles here. He can also dodge the EMP potentially. If you remember how the Valiant held on Paris, sort of the same thing here. Not as much room, obviously, to operate with. Not as easy to spread out, but still. Fact is holding a corner. Everyone else is a little bit further back, so that when the Titans eventually go for this push, they can only really push Fact. And Sumitsu coming in here for his EMP. Hits a pretty big one. Hits 3 people. But Kariv just dodges it, and Kariv is coming up on his nano boost. So he can easily save Fact with this. He nades, and he saves him. Slime goes for a boop. Almost gets him off the map. Huxal also rallies. But still, the hack is still on Fact. So Bumper still has a bit of a window to find a Shatter because he doesn't have a shield to worry about. KSF also uses Self Bubble, so he doesn't have to worry about that. And he does. He finds a very nice Shatter here. And KSF is clearly the priority target here. He's the one that everyone can shoot. Don't need to go for the spin if you're Bumper. You're gonna get the skill every time regardless. But I guess he tries to hit Fact. But Fact, obviously, armored up. He has the nano, not going to take a ton of damage. Everyone from the Titans really goes hard to try and get the skill. And Shax is ready for the EMP here. Because they go so hard, Twilight is now exposed. And you can potentially still turn this if you are the Valiant. So you've diffused the aggression pretty nicely here. Now, Twilight has to hide, and Agility's pops rally, even though this is a 5 versus 6. So it's clear that the Valiant are confident about potentially turning this fight. They know that now they have the EMP Shatter, the big combo to kind of close this fight out, even though there are a lot of ultimates for the Titans. It's pretty clear that this is what they're going for. So if we look at Kariv, throws out a nade. Perfect timing. Bumper just lets his shield down, and it hits Bumper. And that's very crucial because target bubble, 5-second cooldown. You can see Shax flying in, and look at this timing. You can clearly see that someone in the comm said it's winnable. We have EMP Shatter. That's why Agility's pops his rally. And then look at the timing and the synergy here between Shax and Fact. Perfect. Twilight trances does not matter. Even if Janu didn't get EMP'd here, he does not have his target bubble. Bumper is dead here regardless. Very nice comeback. Very good mid-fight read by the Valiant to understand that they can actually turn that fight. The fact that the EMP Shatter only yielded 1 kill for the Titans, and the Valiant still controlled the corner. And yeah, good heads up play. Now heading to the next fight, both teams are sort of in the same spot. They're both sitting on a Graviton and a Beat. But the Valiant just need to slow the game down a little bit so they can catch up. You can see like KSF and Custa are not quite there yet. So you want to get those ultimates, and really it becomes about who gets most value out of those 2 ultimates. Who can kind of go first in this regard. So Janu goes first. He snaps the grab. He catches 3 people. Quite a bit of a distance to cover to follow up on this. And honestly, I think if KSF wasn't at 97%, if he was at 100%, and he counter grabs here, I think the Valiant probably wins the fight. But because he gets it a little bit late and grabs now, and Bumper already gets a little bit of damage in there, Custa has to beat first. Slime beats second, which means the Titans' beat is going to be a little bit better. We see the hacks also, the way the hacks go off, very important. Hoxel is hacked and Fact Fiction is hacked, so much better hack for the Titans. Fact obviously can't put up his shield. Naturally not going to be any bubbles. Remember what we talked about? Twilight has the Discord, so automatically, unless Kariv just hits a massive nade or something, which he has already thrown onto cooldowns, not a winnable fight anymore for the Valiant. Fact is just gonna evaporate. Because he's hacked, he doesn't have a choice to put up his shield, and he kind of has to go into this corner. Kariv can't output enough heals, and you pretty much just lose this fight. Now, if you look at how this plays out, very important. KSF tries to get out with energy here. And he does. While he does, Custa dies on payload. Again, good fundamentals by the Valiant. They're actually dying out of payload. They're stopping the objective. KSF gets out and preserves his energy. Very good heads-up plays. Still, the Titans won that fight pretty clean, so they have a huge ultimate edge here. Like this, by the Valiant. They're flipping the map, and they understand approximately how far the payload is going to travel. They can contest the payload here and potentially abuse high ground. The map architecture is, it does favor the defenders, even though you are flipping the map. You are still behind in ultimates, though. You kind of want to have Shax hitting his ultimate. It's still going to be difficult to win this because of the EMP shatter that is already present on the Titans' side. Fact goes for a shatter. I mean, should he go for it? Should he not? Difficult to say. You could potentially just get out this EMP shatter regardless, because you have the nano. Might not have needed the shatter. Might be better to perhaps save it for the EMP shatter, or just tank the EMP shatter from the Titans and save it for the next fight. Nano comes out to try and save Fact, but again, good delay on the shatter by Bumper. He gets the EMP from Suminsu, waits a little bit till the angle lines up, and then hits a very big one, and the fight is over. But still, what have you accomplished if you're the Valiant? In the last two fights, you got Jano's Grav. You lost a fast one here to the EMP, and now you're heading into the next fight. Yeah, you committed a lot. You don't have support ultimates, you don't have anything, but you do have the EMP, the big equalizer. Whereas the Titans also don't have anything. So you can see much more efficient fighting overall. A lot more ultimates are being traded. Fights taking a little longer for the Valiant. No one's staggering out. Everyone's dying out on payload, and they actually get 3 proper fights on second point, and they set themselves in a position where the third fight they're coming in with an EMP when the Titans, yeah, they do have map control, but they don't have the Grav nor the EMP. And this is also a pretty difficult kind of spot for Twilight to hide and counter this EMP. Now, it is a little bit difficult to get on the point. You can see the spawns are a little late. You're going to have to scramble to get onto the point. Bumper is anchoring down right side. Now the call, clearly, Sumitsu makes the call that everyone is coming out left side. Fact misses his spin here. I think, let's see, did Slime boop him? Yeah, Slime boops Fact Fiction, so good heads up play by Slime, which means that Custa actually has to touch now. He does get the bubble, survives a little bit longer. And actually, this almost works out better, because now Twilight is a little bit distracted. He sees that Custa is low, and he's focusing on that rather than focusing on reacting on Shax. Like, as soon as Shax uncloaks here and looks for an EMP, he has to be ready to react to it and be even EMP. Trance a little proactively. But Custa does die, as he should, and the EMP comes out, and Twilight isn't ready. As soon as the EMP comes out and Twilight doesn't transit, it's over. Now, heading into the next fight, both teams have grabs. Again, becomes that bit of a tug of war. Who can grab first? Who's going to get more value out of this ultimates? The fights with Gravitons are going to be a lot faster because there's no damage mitigation. There's not as much counterplay. Twilight does have his trance, so in that sense, the Titans have the advantage, but at the same time, they don't have any Matrix. So which is why the Valiant, I assume, are comfortable holding this choke point. They know that both of them can grab, and then this offers a very nice nade angle for Karif. You also have the nano, so as long as not too many people get caught in it, you can always nano fact fiction, and if you can hit a nade, the Valiant are always winning this trade, even through the trends. You can see both of them come out. Karif lands it up, and now nothing you can really do. The trance is rendered useless. Nano also comes out on fact just for good measure, and he cleans up. Again, good ult trades for the Valiant. But now you end up in a position where Sumitsu has his ultimate, you don't have yours. You don't have one of those big ultimates. You don't have the grab, you don't have the EMP. So it's going to be very difficult for the Valiant to win the fight. They have to make a big play. They have to go for something crazy, because they can't really play slow to farm something up. There's nothing to farm up. You don't have any support ultimate. Well, you have Rally, but you don't have Karif's or Custis ultimates to peel this EMP. It's also an EMP Shatter, so with the EMP Shatter, you're just going to get cleaned up most of the time. So the Valiant go for a bit of a crazy play. Because Shax gets his hack on Bumper, Fact just goes for the Shatter, and completely fine. The hack forces Hoxel to use his ultimate. EMP comes out, and the big boop comes out. This is pretty big that this boop comes out, because it allows Bumper to potentially save his Shatter. But overall, let's just kind of think about what's happened, right? Like if we compare the two defenses, the Valiant are heading into third point with an EMP and 50% to Graviton, whereas the Titans had to use both of them, right? And that's the big difference here, because the Valiant marched into third point on their attack with both of those ultimates because of how sloppy the Titans were, and now the Valiant have a pretty easy... Sorry, and yeah, so the Valiant have a pretty easy opportunity to stabilize here. They have all the ultimates. They pretty much only need the EMP here. They use the Rally, and Bumper, just like Fact, a fight before, has to pretty much look for a Lucky Shatter. That's the only way they win this fight. And he hits a big one. So sloppy here by the Valiant. They don't need to do anything fancy. Obviously, they're trying to rally engage and then force out the bubbles and then EMP and then secure the fight that way. But you still have to be aware of Bumper's Shatter. You have to be careful for this. So really bad positioning here by the back line. Agilities also gets hit, so you have to block this. Because of this, Bumper can just kind of march into the back line and look for this pin. And he draws so much aggression. Custer obviously tries to peel with the boo, but it just shortens the pin and gives Bumper a faster kill. Now Fact is kind of just a little bit overextended here. Shax hasn't been able to use his EMP. But at least the Valiant reset and they don't use any ultimates. So very, very big clutch play by the Bumper. No, Titans have no business winning that fight. Bit of sloppy oversight on Valiant's part, but still, Sumitsu and Jano don't have their ultimates. Jano does have his bead, but KSF and Shax both have their ultimates. Ideally, you win the fight just with one, but it might be difficult. You might have to just grab, force out Slime's ultimate, and then EMP it off and take that trade. Let's see how this plays out. Okay, so they lead with EMP, which, again, if everyone's ready to follow up on Bumper, maybe you can kill him before the beat comes out. Very viable, and then you can save your Graviton for the next fight, because ideally you don't want to use both EMP and Graviton if your opponents don't use either. You're just going to fall super far behind. You know, if the Titans lose this fight to KSF's and Shaq's ultimates, they're fine for the next fight. Bumper going very low. You can see the target focus is very apparent. Barely gets around the corner there. So not quite good enough follow-up there. And you have to grab anyway. Again, the safer play, probably just grab first, force out the beat, and then use the EMP. But then again, if the grab isn't big enough, maybe Twilight can just counter it with his nano, and you need to use the EMP anyway. There's a lot of ways to look at this, but the biggest thing is as long as Shaxx is holding his EMP in this fight, Slime is pretty much out of the fight. He has to keep hiding. So the longer the fight goes, the more of an advantage you have in terms of, as long as you don't have to be worried about Suminsu's EMP, the more time you have in kind of a 6 versus 5. But who knows? Maybe the Valiant tracked in a different way. Maybe they called Suminsu has his ult. Maybe they called that Janu has his ult. So, you know, and they just kind of want to go first. So difficult to say. But still, the grab comes out. It gets solo brig. The nano comes out, but the nano comes out of fact as well, and you can still convert that kill. Still, you're not in that great of a spot here if you are the Valiant. You did use your 2 big ultimates. You need Shaxx to really catch up. He is doing an exceptional job farming up again here. He's already at 50%. But now the 2 big ultimates on the side of Valiant are online. Now Custa has to play that little mini game. Now Fact pretty much has to hit a big shadow. You kind of have to go for a big play here if you are the Valiant. And again, Janu just yeets the grab really far up. And he misses it. He completely misses it. But even if he hit it here, the rest of the Titans are just so far away from the fight. It's so hard to follow up on that. As you're closing that distance, opens up for Fact, Fiction, Shatter, but really big whiff here by Janu. Now, in the backline here, we can see that Shaxx slept, and he's getting hacked, and he's drawing a lot of aggro from essentially 3 people. Custa beats here. Presumably didn't have all the information. The graph came out and maybe he assumed that he needed it. In this situation, certainly didn't. Could have held it. But I like this. Valiant tried to salvage the play, and they tried to do something with this, because they realized that everyone is focusing Shaxx. Like, Shaxx is drawing aggro from the entirety of the backline and Suminsu. Suminsu, who should be focused on EMPing this beat off, is instead focused on Shaxx, and so is Twilight. So really the front line is very exposed here. And Janu is stepping forward. Now the Valiant realized we can't really close the distance. We have to kite. EMP comes out. And again, KSF just trying to get out of there, just trying to get back into spawn. And he does. Once again, he saves his energy. Very, very important for all of these engages. Now, because the Valiant don't stagger and they get out, let's see, does Curve get out? He does get out, and that is so huge. If Curve gets staggered, this fight is much harder. It's almost unwinnable. But because he survives, Fact Fiction obviously going to be late into the fight. You're going to have to start this fight 5 versus 6, but you have gotten out Sumitsu's and Janu's ultimates. You have the rally. You can bubble agilities. This is still potentially stallable and winnable. That's what happens. He gets the bubble. He rallies. Very, very difficult to kill agilities here unless Twilight hits a nade on him. And you can see, he's just kind of playing out the role of Fact, just tanking on the point. Custa, also at the top here, forced out Suminsu. Suminsu had this position, which is a very kind of oppressive position for the Sombra. So Custa consistently doing a good job of forcing the Sombra out. And then Suminsu's second Translocator, it should be a lot safer. It should be in a position where, you know, it's sort of around here. We has cover, we can get help from the team, but it's very, very aggressive. Now Shaxx dies. But Bumper gets slept. Again, big plays by Kariv. Kariv sleeps Bumper. And again, you can see that the communication is very clean here between Fact and Kariv. Right? Like they presumably called that the bubble is out. The target bubble is just used by Janu. And then Kariv presumably calls, I'm going for a sleep shatter. And then Fact is immediately ready for it. The sleep hits. And the shatter comes out before the sleep animation is even over. So great synergy here. Now Nano comes out to save Bumper. You didn't convert any kills. And then a great block here by Fact. Agilities gets anti-nated, but you can still easily survive this. Now Bumper has to cover a lot of distance here. He is half HP. He does have a full shield though, but it's still kind of difficult to close here. And he goes for a pin, which is very curious, and he gets a bubble now. And this bubble you can't really do much with. Obviously Valiant don't have bubbles either, but KSF is coming up on the grab. Now this is the equalizer. This is where the Valiant can just turn and win this fight easily. A little bit difficult to convert these kills because Shax was dead the entire time, but ultimately the Graviton allows them to get enough kills. So Slime trying to hide for the C9. Not gonna happen. And no win condition for the next fight for the Titans. So obviously you're close to the Graviton, but there's no way the Valiant are ever gonna let you anywhere close to it. You know that you have everyone in front of you. You know that no one is behind you. If you're the Valiant, you just go with the EMP here. You clean up. You make sure no one touches point. And that's what they do. Shax dies. Does not matter at all. Agilities dies. Also doesn't matter. Because you're trading those skills. And you can't touch the payload. Nice job by the Valiant. Alright. Finally, we are heading into Dorado, the last map. And once again, we get the Sombra Goats Mirrors. Now, the first thing I want to point out, nothing too fancy here. Very standard positions. Sumitsu is going to get all the resources in this position. He's going to farm. He's almost always going to beat Shax to his first EMP because of Defender's advantage on these aggressive high grounds. It's going to be very difficult to push him off, whereas Shax, difficult for him to get in a lot of positions to farm. Basically, he can go here, but very easy to shield his damage off. If he goes here, he's risking to get slept, whereas Sumitsu not really any inherent risks with this kind of an oppressive high ground. So naturally, Sumitsu should always hit his EMP first. Now, one thing I have to point out is Sumitsu's Translocator placement is just absolutely dreadful. It's right here. If you think logically, there are essentially two paths that a Sombra can take. The attacking Sombra, that is. And if you are the Titans, you know that Valiant is going to play the Sombra. You can either go this way, if you're Shax, look for a bit of pressure here. Or you can go somewhere around this way, try and maybe set up behind. And this is just really bad. I mean, you could potentially even place it here and just kind of hide it a little better, and there is no excuse to not hide it better because you have all the time in the world because this is your first ever Translocator placement, right? So not only is this awful because Shax is gonna walk through this is also kind of far away from the next checkpoint. So say Sumitsu gets forced out, you might as well have your Translocator here somewhere around Twilight. But by the time you're forced out from this position, you know, you're back here and you can keep farming. You're going to hit your EMP a little faster. So very sloppy placement there by Sumitsu. Clearly shows that he's not very comfortable with the hero. Shax, on the other hand, sees this. You can tell this is the play call. Call when Sombra gets out of Invis, and we're going to be able to kill her. If we look at Custa, he's trying to set this play up. The only way you can force Sombra out of Invis, or force him into a position where you can potentially kill her, is if you force her off of this high ground. You can see she's getting a lot of resources. Custa understands that he can't really push her off immediately. He gets armor from agilities, and then he goes for the second rotation when there is no target bubble to defend Sumitsu. Sumitsu naturally focused on this. Custa comes in, moves him off. Very, very good play. Custa, once again, doing a very good job marking the Sombra, pushing her off of power positions. And as soon as this happens, Shax breaks it. So this should potentially be a free kill and a lost fight for the Titans. Shax is also coming in here and shooting him in the back, but Twilight saves this fight and bails his team out. Hits a big nade, hits Fact, And what should be just kind of a free kill on Huxel here turns into a trade just because Fact is nated. And after this, the matchup just plays out like it should. Obviously, you can see Sumitsu is a little bit of a head in ult charge. He has greater access to these power positions. You can see he goes up here, farms a little bit more. Sleep misses. He's at 80%, and he's always going to hit it faster. And the Titans don't need to do anything fancy here. Just slow the pace down. Get your EMP. You know that you have the EMP advantage. Sumitsu almost has this, and yeah, you're just going to close this fight with the EMP. You can see Titans not bothered. Give up a little bit of free push. Just make sure we take the safe fight and win this with the EMP. And that's exactly what they end up doing. Now, next fight is the first one that the Valiant can't potentially win. Now, they're coming up on the EMP. They're coming up on a lot of ultimates, whereas the Titans have to find a way to counter that. And you can see that's what they're trying to do. Twilight goes to hide so that he can easily EMP Bumper. They want Bumper to tank the EMP, and it's going to be up to Valiant to make sure that doesn't happen. Now, Fact, Fiction, and Shax, they've been very good at comboing their ultimates. The EMP Shatter, which is what they should be looking for here again. Now, the first ultimate on the board is Agility's Rally. With this, they just want to force out the target bubbles, maybe get out a couple of those counter ultimates early, so it's much easier to set up the EMP Shatter. That's what happens. Huxley uses his ult as well. Target bubble came out to save Bumper. Now he's dying, and he's completely isolated naturally. So he gets nanoed. So now you've forced out the bubble, you forced out the nano, you forced out the rally, you forced out a lot of ultimates here just with your rally. And you did that because you have the threat of the MP. You don't even have to use it. You also have Karif, who just hit an 8 on Bumper. And this is the cue. There is no target bubble for Janu to take this debuff off, so you are free to just EMP Shatter and close the fight here. And once again, Bumper tries to salvage the fight looking for a Shatter, but that is trumped by the EMP Shatter of Fact, Fiction, and Shax. And now it's just cleanup. So once again, good execution, leveraging their threats very well here, the Valiant are. And they end up taking the first point pretty quickly. Now, heading into this fight, one interesting thing to note is Karif's positioning. He knows that the next fight is going to take place around here. He knows that the Titans are going to have the Graviton. Naturally, Janu hasn't used it. And Sumitsu is going to have a big edge on Shax in terms of his ultimate as well. And this position gives you a lot of advantages. It gives you an excellent nade angle here, which Karif would never, again, because the defenders kind of have the advantage of the high ground on this map. Anytime you can steal a position like this away and not be forced away from this position, going to be very valuable because, you know, this crossfire, this angle opens up for a lot of plays. And again, we have Sumitsu just farming up his ult a little bit, and really the Titans could take the safe bet here. They could let Sumitsu get his ultimate, use Janu's and Sumitsu's ultimates if needed, but just take the free fight, take the safe fight with your Slime gets ultimate, Sumitsu gets ultimate, Janu gets ultimate. You're beating Custa and KSF in your ult economy. That's a guaranteed fight for you. If you're the Titans, you stabilize, then you can force out Shax's EMP in the next fight, and you can potentially take a lot of time off the clock. Instead, they start the engagement here when they're still behind, right? Even though the Titans are hitting their ult spike here, they are going to have the edge. They start the fight before Sumitsu and Slime get their ultimates, which means at this point, at this frozen frame, the Valiant still have an ultimate edge. And Janu drops and uses his ult, and Sumitsu isn't even in the fight. He translocated out, he's not even in the fight. So not only do the Titans take the fight before they hit their ult spike, they also start it with one man down. Very sloppy. They also do it without forcing out any cooldowns. You just saw how Valiant set it up. They forced out a lot of cooldowns. They put the pressure on their opponents. They made the game hard for them. This is not hard. KSF has both his bubbles. He has a counter graviton. Custa has his ultimate. Obviously, Custa is aware that Sumitsu has his ult as well, but still. And now if we look at Kariv, huge sleep, stops the follow-up. Because there's no shield. Let's see, does Jiano have bubbles? He has a target bubble, he doesn't have self bubble. Sumitsu also drops in. You know, Sumitsu is trailing the entire play, so he's just trying to catch up to the play. He's not thinking about any counter plays or anything. He's just rushed because Jiano rushed the play. The counter graph comes out, and Kariv hits the nade, as you just saw. Jiano does have a target bubble, but he can't take the debuff off of both of these guys. Huxel also gets hacked by Shax. Even fewer resources. Because you counter grab, you grab second, no one can really follow up on Jiano's graviton, and you end up throwing this fight and losing it again. So, once again, sloppy play by the Titans. Very clear that they don't have a lot of experience with this composition. The Somber Goats composition, much more reliant on ult economy and matching your ultimates better. You can't just throw your ultimates out, and that's sort of what Titans have been known for in the previous stages. They could clutch fight because of how good they are individually. They could clutch fights by just they go one man down and they use an ultimate and they eventually clutch it. But in the Somber Goats mirror, not the case. And again, another advantage of Kariv just taking this position. Not only did his debuff really help in this fight, he also maintains high ground for the rest of the fight. And this is, again, very, very huge because Sumitsu is coming back with his ultimate, and if you look at the ultimates of the Valiant, they have nothing. They should lose the next fight to Sumitsu's EMP. They understand this, so they are chasing staggers very, very hard to leave Fact Fiction on the point, and Custa is speeding the rest of his team. And this is where the big play happens. In reality, the Titans are pretty much out. Huxel, safe. But because of this high ground position, the sleep hits. Stagger is secured. Now, why is this important? Not only does this buy more time, but this also allows the Valiant to take high ground. It allows them to secure this position. If the staggers didn't happen, if the Titans just died out on card, Valiant wouldn't have enough time to run all the way here, all the way here, all the way up the stairs, because the Titans' spawn is much closer. They would have just gone this way, and they would have taken high ground away from them. If you take high ground away from the Valiant, naturally, fewer hiding spots for Sumitsu's EMP, right? But because of the staggers, because Huxel and I'm not sure who that was. Was it Twilight? I'm sure it was Twilight. Because those guys didn't fall back, and it wasn't Jiano. If it was Jiano trying to fall back and conserve his energy, completely understand that. But instead, they don't die on card. They stagger. This gives the high ground to the Valiant. And if you look at how the fight plays out, much more difficult for Sumitsu to use his ultimate. If you are the Valiant now, you understand you have no win conditions right now. You have to play slow. You have to make sure you try to counter Sumitsu's ultimate, but you also need to farm up your own. Sumitsu naturally can't contest this. He can't go out here and start scouting and put his translocator anywhere because the Valiant have their bodies there. So he has to go to the other side. Still, Bumper starts on the high ground. Jiano starts on the high ground. And if you are the Titans, you should group up as a 6-man unit, and you should shove all of these guys down. Payload doesn't matter. Let it push. Let it even push here. Priority number 1, clear all of these guys. But also good distance management by the Valiant. They back off. They also realize that the Titans can't push them off because the entirety of their backline has gone to the opposite side. Sumitsu is on the ground. So these two guys cannot do anything. They cannot push them off. So they just have to immediately give up high ground. And the lack of high ground priority really just loses this fight. So now Bumper jumps down to the point. We still have EMP, but tell me, who is Sumitsu going to EMP? How can he land a fight-winning EMP? Use it on fact? Well, Karev has his ultimate. Agility is going to drop with his armor. Still no shatter on the side of Bumper, so he can't lock Fact Fiction up and kind of follow up on that kill. So Sumitsu is really not set up for success here. And, you know, the retake pathing, not great. The stagger's not great for the Titans. Everything is just very, very sloppy here. Shax, very nice off angle here. Hacks Janu and shoves him off high ground as well. And very important because Janu he is coming up on his next bubble rotation, and this just slows it down. He can't farm up energy, whereas KSF is sitting on the high ground with 100 energy. He is a very, very happy camper here. He has all the space in the world, 100 energy. Very, very difficult for the Titans to do anything now. They've essentially already lost the fight. You can see Slime, nowhere to go. He can't really cross here because these two guys are pressuring him. These guys also have to be a lot more careful. If they're standing here, they can just be beamed by 100 charge Zarya. Now you just leverage these positions. You slow down the pace. If you're the Titans, you counter the EMP, and then you farm up your own little ultimates. And Shax is, lo and behold, he is coming up on his own ultimate. And if you just look at the, let's see. Well, we can't see the shield here, but if we just look at Bumper's shield HP, 1,200. And the longer this fight goes, the more his shield breaks because of the energy advantage. EMP comes out. Desperate EMP. You're never going to get, again, if Bumper gets his ultimate, you can potentially lock Fact Fiction down. Here, you can shatter him here, and then everyone can follow up and you can kill him. But again, pulling the trigger, not hitting your ult spike properly, not comboing your ults properly. Same issue here by the Titans, and this is just too easy to counter. Again, you're solo EMPing, you gave up all the space, everyone can dodge the EMP, only Agility is in fact tank it. He's gonna have the bubble, he's gonna have the Dano, he's gonna have everything. You're never gonna convert a kill here. And KSF, as you can see how much space KSF just creates with this position. Now there's nothing you can do. Shax is coming up on his ultimate, and the Valiant, they're not forcing anything. They just start off with rally, and they start off with a lot of pressure on Bumper. They are once again leveraging the threat of the fact that they have an EMP much better, and they're holding it, and and for the lack of a better word, they're kind of edging the EMP. And the Titans, naturally, they can't find a proper fight when the EMP is on the board, right? You can see Slime is out of the fight, so the longer this fight goes, the worse off you are. Yes, Twilight has his ultimate to peel, but this is the difference. The Valiant force out these peeling ultimates before the EMP comes out, whereas the Titans just kind of go in dry with their ultimates. They're not setting anything up. Bubble is out. Karev, another 6 sleep on Sumitsu. Sumitsu might as well be dead. So you've taken one guy out of the fight. You forced the bubble. You forced the rally. Twilight is also completely isolated now. Again, you can take all the risks in the world that you want if you're the Valiant. And Slime is out of the fight, so he can't peel for his teammates. So this is essentially 6 versus 4. And now the MP comes out. When Twilight is already down. They've taken EMP out of the picture completely. And EMP Shatter comes out. 2 kills are already on the board when it's Slime ults. Lost fight, wasted ultimates. And this is the big difference because, once again, the Valiant, yeah, they do use quite a bit, but they win fights while also forcing out major ultimates. Losing that fight cost the Titans 4 ultimates. And heading into the third point, the Valiant still have a lot of tools to just snowball. KSF still has his ultimate, no response on the side of Janu and Sumitsu. And even though Twilight has his ultimate, still should be the Valiant's fight. Now this is where I feel like the Valiant make an error. So Bumper and the rest of the Titans are flipping the map here. And the Valiant choose to drop and engage here. Wasted nade by Kariv, uncharacteristic. He usually doesn't waste them here. Maybe you saw an opening on Bumper because Jano wasn't there to bubble it. But ultimately, no reason for you to push in there if you are the Valiant. And you even commit the graph. Now, Kariv can't really help you in there. Agilities, fighting a Sombra on the side. So this is very reminiscent of the way the Titans took the first fight on second point, where you're just pulling the trigger a little bit too early. There's absolutely no reason to do this, because even though you grab here, again, Twilight has the ultimate to peel, you don't have the potential to hit a big anti-nade here because Kariv can't leverage his high ground position as well here. Shax is also trailing the play, so you have a lot of guys trailing the play, and this is just very forced by KSF. You also have to consider the fact that this little high ground, also a nice position for the Titans. They can leverage this, and this is not a great position to fight for the Valiant. Whereas if they just kept these positions, played the payload, abused the fact that KSF has he had an energy edge. Well, he didn't have the energy edge, but still, you could just let the Titans flip the map, bait out a couple of cooldowns, then Grav and then Kariv can leverage this position and play it much better, because at that point all of these guys would have to drop and they would have to come and fight on the payload. You have the structural advantage, but the Valiant choose to force it here, and this could be very costly. As you can see, even though you kill Jano here, still a lot of things that can go poorly here. It's counterpinned here. Fact does. Kariv's still not in the fight. He hasn't dropped. Obviously, he probably should just drop and help, but really, the Valiant should just be like, the payload should be moving, right? If you kill Jano, the payload should be moving the whole way, and these guys would have to drop. But now Suminsu gets a great angle to hack, and Twilight gets a great angle to nade because they have the high ground. And he just notices and cleans up the fight. Again, potentially a very costly mistake here, because now Suminsu and Janu have the edge in those two major ultimates that we've been talking about, and this could potentially cost you the map in a lot of cases, or at least it could be the difference between finishing with 3 minutes or not finishing at all. Now this is where Kariv once again brings the game back, because if you look at the ults, no chance for the Valiant to win the next fight unless the Titans completely throw. If we look at what happens here, Twilight and Kariv meet. They look at each other, and they sleep each other. Issue is, the Titans are already out of the fight. Whichever team follows up on this quicker wins the next fight for free. The Titans not ready at all. Now they react. Too late. Another free fight for the Valiant. Completely given away. And yeah, again, we're faced with the same conundrum here. You bleed out, you give the ults back to the Valiant, and you give them the high ground. So once again, much easier to counterplay around the Titans to engagement ultimates, simply because you have a lot more spots to hide. And if we look at how the fight plays out, once again, just zero setup, right? We have EMP and Rally coming out instantly. The front line, not ready to pressure at all. If this was the Valiant would make it to this position, start pressuring, force out cooldowns, then EMP, because they understand that Custa is not in the fight. Now, that's not entirely true in this situation either, because Shax does have his EMP, and in fact he does have his shatter, so you don't want to end up in a situation where you don't get your ults off. Shax EMPs, fact shatters, fight over. So you still want to go first, but not great setup anyway, and very easy to counterplay here if you're the Valiant. Nano comes out, beat comes out, your EMP is negated, And now you have that play at your disposal anyway. Shax didn't get EMP'd. He EMP second. And fact doesn't even need to shatter. Both teams grab, but Titans can't touch the payload. So once again, just sloppy play by the Titans. Valiant kind of gave them a fight there, but Twilight got caught, gave it away, and yeah, another costly mistake. All right, heading into this round, once again, Valiant just playing the Somber Goats. A little bit of a contrast. Shax starting here. Throws his Translocator over here where his team can protect it. It's still pretty well hidden. He's going to translocate back to the high ground. Much better than placing it here like Sumitsu did in the first round. However, the Titans are done humoring the Valiant. And they're not playing Somber Goats anymore, but they're going for the Sombra Pharah. And in general, Pharah should be able to get a lot of value into Somber Goats. That's why you've seen kind of a rise in 3 DPS lately, simply because you don't have Matrix on the side of the Sombra Goats. If you can kind of create a scenario with this, there's multiple things. First of all, no Matrix is going to be easier to poke out your shield. Number 2, when you're playing 3 DPS, you don't have a Diva, which means there's one fewer target to farm EMP off if you are the Sombra in the Sombra Goats, on the Sombra Goat side, like Shax is here. But instead, the Titans opt for a 2-2 setup. So you have a little more support, obviously, a little more damage mitigation, but ultimately, you don't have as much damage, as much burst potential, which means your dives have to be really, really pristine if you want to get value out of this 2-2 comp. And once again, that's why we've seen most teams just play 3 DPS instead. Fact Fiction's shield gonna usually drop pretty quickly here. You're gonna have to give up this space pretty early. Again, you're putting Shax in the front line. Shax doesn't have to deal with a shield anymore. He doesn't have to deal with a Reinhardt shield, so he can just farm from the front line a lot more. He can't really farm from these angles anymore because the Titans don't have a ground-bound composition anymore, right? If you had Somber Goats here, Shax could easily play angles here. He could farm. He could have even stayed on this high ground much longer and farmed. But the composition that the Titans play are much better at clearing the high ground. But instead, there is no frontline shield unless Bumper puts down his. So great opening here for in general for Shax to frontline and try to farm his EMP, which is essentially what he does. He's getting all the resources here in the front. He's stopping the payload. Gets the hack on Janu. Once again, Shax gets a little bit greedy. Been a bit of a recurring theme. Tunnels a little bit on farming too much, gets slept, and dies. Now, even though he dies, you can see Bumper jumping in. But at the same time, Sumitsu has already just translocated out. So even though Shax is dead, and this should be a 6 versus 5, the way the Titans force the fight, this is a 5 versus 5. This is a 5 versus 5. Twilight does not have high ground position. Twilight does not have his cooldowns. Kariv has his. Very, very important. And both Sombras are out of the fight, at least for the foreseeable future, for the next 4 to 5 seconds, right? So this jump, way too early by Bumper. And, you know, sort of what I talked about. You don't have as much damage. Your dives have to be much cleaner. Otherwise, Janu, like, what is Janu really doing here? Not that much, right? Like, Bumper is still getting chunked. You can't really go in for kills here if you're Janu. And Bumper rightfully dies off of that. Now, he still kites back pretty far. He dies in a position where he can get rezzed, so that's still okay. Agilities dies as well, so you can res and have a 6 versus 4 in this situation if you are the Titans. Now, because Bumper dies, though, you lose a lot of frontline pressure, which means KSF is just a little more free. You can see he starts at 35% here. But he moves up here and farms a little bit. In fact, also stopping the payload. He gets to farm a little bit of and again, not only for Shax is it easier to farm up his ultimate, same thing goes for KSF. he doesn't have to worry about shields. Much easier for him to... Granted, it is harder for the Zarya to get value out of his ultimate against such a mobile composition, but there's still no defensive ultimate on the side of the Titans, and he also gets to farm his ult a little bit faster if he can fight in kind of a choke point like this. Obviously, if it's out in the open, much harder for the Zarya to get value, but here, very nice scenario for KSF to farm, which is why it's very important that Fact Fiction holds this corner. If Fact Fiction drops and KSF has to fall back, you give up all of this space to the Titans. KSF can't really do much. He can't really get within beam range. Now he can pressure Hoxel, he can pressure the front line, he can do much more here. So very important that Fact holds that corner. Granted, he has run out of shield. He's at 200 shield, so he can't really keep that position anymore. And if he just falls back, then we end up with that scenario where KSF also has to fall back. And KSF swings wide here, so it's going to be very difficult for KSF to make it back to this. But when Fact charges with the bubble here, he takes away all the aggro from KSF. And he also hits the pin on Bumper, while also forcing out both cooldowns for Twilight. So, again, very important. And another kill on Bumper. Now, the front line is falling a little bit low here. You could potentially see them getting killed still. Fact Fiction's shield very low. So they are in quite a lot of trouble. But you can see Shax coming in for a hack here because Hoxel sinks pretty low. And then Kariv is also ready and hits the sleep to bail out Fact. And now you can just clean up and the fight is over. And you can see, even though Shax died, he is almost... I mean, he's still a little bit behind some Mitsuin charge and EMP charge, but still, it's not that far off. And he can easily catch up here by just shooting the tankless shields. And really, Janu kind of just becomes an old battery at this point. Now, the Valiant obviously understand Hoxel and Sunsu. They will have their ultimates, and we can study their positioning here a little bit. Agilities and Kariv hiding to dodge it. And both tanks get EMP'd here. But look at the setup. Like, the setup really isn't that great. When the EMP comes out, Hoxel doesn't have the barrage angle. He's going in blind here. He has no idea where the tanks are. So this setup is still very poor. If we look at Hoxel's POV, he conks out. He still has no idea where he's going. And really, when you're executing these combos, EMP Shatter, EMP Barrage, you already have to have the angle. Whoever's following up on the EMP with their ultimate has to have the angle, whether it's Shatter, whether it's Barrage. So really, Hoxel should have been here when the EMP came out. Now he's kind of trailing the play, the setup. He's not ready. He's still looking around. Still doesn't know where he's going. Now he sees Kusta and he ults on him. But in reality, Kusta can get away from this position most likely, and these guys can potentially fall back inside and survive as well. And this EMP Barrage could be a complete waste. Jilties gets the nano. Probably wanted on Fact. Might have been a miss by Kariv here. But now, like, again, Hoxel, very bad EMP barrage angle. If you barraged here, free kills, a little harder to sleep maybe. But just a very poor setup. And he's also out in the open. So not only is this barrage angle not great, like now he can't really shoot anyone. He's gonna obviously switch to Fact here because Fact is slow, he can finish him off. But this, because he's so far in the open, very easy sleep angle for Kariv here. Now Slime bails out the Titans. If Slime doesn't do this, you might just see a full hold for the Valiant. Because you have to remember, Shax did not get EMP'd. He's pressuring Twilight here. If you only get one kill with this EMP Barrage, you can still turn this fight with Shax's and KSF's ultimates. But Slime bails out Hoxel. Blocks the... Probably not intentional, but still. Little details, right? This buys Hoxel a little more time, and he gets 2. but he doesn't get 2 because it was a good setup for an EMP barrage. Either way, the Valiant still get the fight. Now this is where you could potentially struggle to stabilize a little bit, because now you've given up map control, very mobile composition like we talked about for the Titans, difficult for your Zarya to get value, like from this position, as you can see, it's just going to be so hard. But once again, Karev, MVP of this set, I'd say, bails out his team. Gets the sleep on Haxel, and this is impactful for a million reasons. It allows you to stabilize for free. It allows you to control this corner, and by controlling this corner, again, it's going to be very difficult for you to poke out Fact, because he has a very nice corner to play around. Just like he had a nice corner to play around here, where he can tank with his shield, but he also has a lot of cover. The enemy Pharah has to kind of push over here to really shoot Fact Fiction, but anytime she pushes over here, you're within range of KSF. Karif can potentially mark you. So getting to hold here rather than here is just so crucial for the Valiant. It just limits Haxel's potential space to spam by an incredible amount. Fact looks for a bit of a shatter, doesn't get it. Once you're not playing against a ground round composition, once you're not playing against a Summer Goods Mirror, EMP Shatter not as important. It's it's still a good combo if you can catch the tanks on the ground, but it's not going to be as reliable of a combo. So you can potentially, if you see good angles, you can potentially throw out some solo shatters here and there and try to win fights like that. Now we get, if we look at this play, rather than Suminsu and Haxel, now Bumper kind of rushes the play. You can see Bumper is jumping in here, but the pharmacy is not ready yet. Like, they're still far away. They still have to cover all of this distance until they can help on anything that Bumper does. So we got a bit of a rush. Shax sees this, and he sees an opening to potentially EMP Bumper. He thinks about the pharmacy, but really all he needs to do is EMP Bumper, take his ultimate off the board, peel off Bumper, and then the fight is over. And that's what he's trying to do. Unfortunately, does not get it. Bumper just gets around the corner. He only gets Janus, so not that great of an EMP, but you're still in a pretty good spot because no one was really ready to push. KSF pushed back Twilight. Pharmacy wasn't ready. Bumper is really on an island. He's on his own doing his own thing. And Agilities also pops Rally here. So KSF, Shax, and Agilities can just push Janu away. There's nothing Janu can do here. And, he continues to kind of just be an old battery. Draws out the Nano. So, Janu getting solo impede actually pulls out another ultimate. Now, I do believe he's the one who gets Nano. Yeah, he gets Nano. And that means you're not giving the Nano to Haxel. And Haxel, when there is no Matrix on the board, can pretty much one-shot people with the Nano. So, again, good proactive play by the Valiant. Now, Bumper is doing his own thing here, but there's no kill potential here. There's nothing you can really do over here because no one is ready to follow up. The team still hasn't pushed up. Granted, Karev nearly dies, but Agilities comes back, gives him an armor pack. You peel him off. And then now the rest of his team is ready to go. But Bumper is already dead. So, fight essentially over. Once again, Janu can't really do much. No shield, nothing. He's just an old battery. Another hack. Janu's permanently hacked. This nade by Twilight just kind of gives even more ult charge for Shax. Shax just EMP'd, and he's up to 60% again. Gets more armor. Shax does here in the spawn. Pressures Haxel. Shax uses EMP. Was the first ult to come off the board in the previous fight, and he's back to 80% again. So he's lapping Suminsu now. Now, Suminsu just kind of wants to go for a rotation while Janu's dead. Just get his EMP up so that he can combo his ultimates with Haxel potentially. Goes for this rotation. Again, Karev, huge. Sees the hack. Reacts with the sleep. Starts the animation before he turns down and hits the sleep. Again, even though Suminsu doesn't die here, it's crucial because it once again delays the play. Now Suminsu is back out of the fight. He's over here. He has to retake all of this space. Very weird Translocator placement. Don't understand why it's so far back. You could just put it here or here, or you know, even here. Well, here it's probably a little bit risky because you've seen Valiant push up a couple of times, but really the Valiant aren't pushing past this line ever. So Su is again like 10 seconds out of the fight. Is going to take him a long time to get his EMP here. So again, very crucial for the context of the fight. And KSF just finds a solo grab here on bumper. Again, doesn't have to get anything else. Solo grab is fine here. In fact, also gets no. And you get the free kill. Fight over. Now Shax has his ultimate for the next fight. Gets slept. Does not matter. And Sumitsu still does not have his EMP. Gets it now. He still doesn't have it. Gets now. Better Translocator placement. Much prefer this. No one, there are no heroes that are gonna, on the Valiant side, who are gonna play above this line, so they can't really destroy. Well, potentially you could maybe destroy the Translocator from here, but much better. Closer to the fight, you're gonna be a lot more efficient with your Sombra when this is your pivot. And again, Shax's just going first. Huge EMP. Catches 4 people. You don't let Sumitsu set up. You don't let him set up with Haksal. You just EMP first. Custo was also hiding over here in case Sumitsu went first. But when Shax found the EMP angle, he called that he's going to go in, which is why Custo is immediately repositioning, because you expect Sumitsu to counter EMP here. And if he counter EMPs here, Custo has to reposition, because the entirety of the Valiant are going to be moving up, so you can't beat from that position. So good heads up play again by Custo here. As you can see, Sumitsu is setting up for counter EMP. Close to getting EMP'd here, Custo is. But he ends up getting it off. And he gets it pretty much on everyone. And here, actually, Haksal gets slept midair and then waking up midair. If you don't wake up the sleep, that Kariv, once again, absolutely insane sleeps. If you don't wake up Haksal here, this fight is over as well. Because you don't have, obviously you don't have Matrix. EMP Barrage is going to melt you. So, yeah, the fight could have been over and Valiant could have won the game right here. But because he gets woken up midair, he still gets value. Still, because Shax went first, if we tally up the score, the fight cost you both of your offensive ultimates and it cost you both of your support ultimates. You still have your tank ults here, but you don't have any offensive ultimates, so difficult to win the fight. You have to get a lot of value out of your tank ultimates. Now, if we take a look again at how this plays out and the difference in pathing. Granted, this isn't the same situation. In the previous fight on the Titans' defense, it was Sombra versus Sombra mirror, but still, you can see the Valiant, they're retaking the high ground together as a team. And Shax is already set up at an off angle. Now you want to let the Titans out a little bit. The play here for the Titans is you let Valiant out, and then you combo your Diva Bomb and Bumper's ultimate and create a lot of chaos. So this is where you want to go for it. But they don't actually use their ultimates early, and you want to get these ultimates off. Because Shax has a good position, even though Fact misses the shatter again, he's just looking for solo shatters consistently against this composition. He's not ever going to get a big shatter. Completely fine to look for the solo shatters. Gets blocked, doesn't get a kill, but you still get a hack on Jano. So now your bomb and primal combo is off the table. And again, you're just an old battery if you're Jano. Shax started, I think, this fight with 40%. Now he almost has a new EMP, even though, again, he just used it. And he's once again lapping Sumitsu. No one forces Shax off. He just farms everyone. No Matrix available. A nice little angle by Twilight. The same thing as Kariv did. But ultimately not enough because of the hack on Jano. So again, free opportunity to stabilize. Agilities, in fact, obviously use their ultimates, but not that big of a deal. You have KSFs, you have Shax's ultimates, so that's fine. Now, if you are the Valiant, we can talk a little bit about their positioning here, because you still haven't cleared Twilight from this position, and this is a very strong position. You also have to understand that when you are playing against this Pharaoh composition, you won't be able to keep this space. You won't be able to keep the high ground. This is no longer a Sombra Goats versus Sombra Goats matchup where you're going to be able to keep this. Same thing as we saw in the first one, right? Like if you're the Sombra Goats, you can keep this for a very limited amount of time. Your shield is going to break. You have to fall back, and you have to play a little closer behind cover, make it harder for the Pharaoh to operate. Which is why I think a better positioning would have likely have been for the Valiant to kind of get into this room. Make sure you don't let Twilight play this high ground position. And then as you're playing this room, obviously you have to have someone contesting the payload, right? Jano's going to push, someone has to drop. You don't have a diva who can contest the point and fly up on the high ground. So who is the only hero on the side of the Valiant who can potentially contest the card and still help on the high ground if needed? Who has that type of gap closer? And that's Shax, right? So I think the better position would have probably for the Valiant been hold here. You can still give resources to Shax. He can contest the point if needed. You buy a lot of time, and then eventually you'll look for an ultimate. Maybe Bumper jumps in to try and pressure you here. Easy to grab him here and just focus him down. Maybe Shax finds an EMP angle on someone and you can kill him. You just buy a lot more time. You want the Titans to kind of push you into a tighter area where you have the advantage. And I think that would have probably been it. The Valiant don't actually do that though. So Twilight has that crossfire. Boop down by Huxel. Again, much harder to boop you down if you already secure this position. Maybe you didn't quite have the time if you're the Valiant to secure that position, but still. Now KSF, he loves to play that high ground position, but once again, this is no longer the Sombra Goats match. We can't do what he did on his attack because there's too many heroes who can push him off. And he gets hacked and isolated here. So this is the potential opening for the Titans to win this fight. Now, at the same time as all of this happens, Twilight has used both of his cooldowns, and Shax was flanking him the entire way. And he heard Twilight using his cooldowns. So now Shax knows that he has nothing to worry about here. He knows that Twilight can't sleep him, he can't nade him, so Shax can just fully commit to this duel. And you can see, he's not worried. He's just walking in a straight line, Shax is making sure he's hitting all his shots, and he's securing this kill. So Shax has started to clutch this fight very well. Bumper, again, isolated a little further up. Might look for a barrage, but he jumps out. Sorry for a primal, but he actually jumps out. He gets slow and he jumps out. He doesn't want to use it. And Shax gets a hack on Slime here. So now Slime can't actually res this, and when he gets hacked, he's ground bound, and this is basically both supports dead for the Titans. So Shax clutching the fight extremely hard. Even though it's difficult to operate in this area with the Valiant's comp, you have no sustain if you're the Titans. Bumper is gonna cause a lot of chaos, but still good peel for Kariving, and Bumper can't really do much against these triple support compositions. It's kind of been the thing for the longest period of time. You can't really secure kills with Primal in a meta where 3 supports are viable, just because of how consistent the armor pack is. So it actually costs Suminsu an EMP as well. So he does get the EMP. They do get to kill the supports. But no one's dealt with Fact. So even though you're getting the kills there, you're still in a 4 versus 4 situation at this point. And you still have no sustain if you're the Titans. And you have to get this absolute unit off the point. Guy with 2000 HP shield who is just going to refuse to move. KSF is going to be able to bubble him. KSF can also push Huxel away. No one's going to move Fact away. Eventually, 3 people start pushing him. That's the cue for him to get out. And he gets out into this area, again, where he can protect himself under cover. Janu, once again, pushes, tries to follow up on Bumper's ultimate, and he gets demeched again. And has to bomb to reset. So Janu hasn't had a single bomb that he's used proactively here the entire match. He's just pushing card, getting hacked, trying to follow up, but there's no setup again with the ultimates. There's no combos. Naturally, he couldn't really bomb here because Sumin Su already ulted and Bumper already ulted. You don't want to kind of waste a bomb on top of that, but still, he doesn't get much done, and he's just, you know, Shax and KSF can keep their ultimates healthy consistently because they get to farm off of him. Now, let's see. Custa gets pushed off. Didn't quite see how that happened, but he gets pushed and he's out of position. Still not that big of a deal. You can still potentially win this. Huxal goes for the barrage. Again, no real setup. Tanks haven't pushed in. It's a bit of a dry barrage. You get nothing. And Shax can come in and just EMP and clean this up. Now, the Valiant do use too many ults here, I think. The EMP, Grav, Nano, and Rally. Granted, Shax actually died, and Fact was close to dying as well. But I think you can comfortably clean this up without all of these ultimates. You had lost Custa though, so they take the safe route. But now you're a little bit short on ultimates. The Titans don't have anything themselves either, though, so you're still in a decent spot as the Valiant. And I like what the Valiant are doing. So now, between fights, the supports are actually pushing this side, and they're making sure that Twilight can get this position. Very, very, very crucial. You can see Shax calls out Twilight, and you're not going to let him get that position. At the same time, Sumin Su over here gets the hack on Custa. At the same time as Twilight is getting pressured here. Off of the hack, Bumper dives this. Now, once again, as a Winston, you have no chance of getting this kill. Sumin Su, already out of the fight. He can't follow up on this. You have Charis Pocket. You're going to have the armor pack from Agilities. And look at the positions. Twilight has been forced out of position. He's out of the fight. Both of the supports are out of the fight. So, really, you're just forcing this once again. Never going to get the kill here. Granted, you do want to get, if you can get the beat off the table here for Custa, that's pretty much your only win condition, unless Sumin Su can get his ultimate as well. But again, Custa, never going to die. Now Twilight is back in the fight. So this early exchange, he wasn't in the fight. And the only thing this jump really accomplished is, yeah, like you forced a couple of cooldowns from Agilities, but he's going to have those up. And if you're Bumper, you used your bubble. And that's the biggest thing, because as soon as you lose your bubble, it's going to be very difficult for you to take space. And because there's no bubble, this hack is kind of free for Shax. Your bubble is the biggest way you can protect yourself against hacks, if you're Winston. And he gets hacked. Because he's hacked, and the hack still hasn't worn off, Fact knows that he has a window for the shatter. Same thing that we talked about, kind of delayed shatters of EMP. This is a delayed shatter off of a manual hack, because the only thing that can block his shatter is the Winston bubble. So he waits, and he finds this beautiful angle. Game over. Sumin Su gets his ultimate, does not matter. Fight is already over. So the Titans chose a composition that is kind of difficult to execute. They could have potentially still won. Kariv still clutched a ton of fights. Valiant played mostly correct. They could have maybe done a thing better here or there, but ultimately played very well. They were first. They reacted with the ultimates well. They countered Titans' combos. There was no fight that Titans won cheaply. Every single fight came at the cost of 2, 3, 4 ultimates. The Valiant were much better at managing the payload, much better at dying out on cart, much better at getting KSF out with energy when possible. So overall, just very sloppy set by the Titans, and much clearer by the Valiant. And yeah, just a better understanding overall of the Summer Goats, I think, on the Valiant side. Much more comfortable on these picks than the Titans are. The playstyle completely shifts, and you can really see that in how the Titans use their ultimates in the set. They were very sloppy. They were using ults to try and come back into fights. They weren't comboing them properly. There was no real synergy. So, which is again understandable. They don't have experience in this type of a meta. They've only grinded through. That's the only thing they had to do to win these games. And now that the meta is shifting a little bit, and you might have to adjust, I'm sure a team as skilled as the Titans are going to do that. But the Valiant kind of caught them here at a good time. The Titans maybe got a little bit tilted, looked a little out of sorts. A lot of solo plays all over the place, and the Valiant were obviously good enough on this day to punish that. And that is how they slayed the Kings. Thanks for watching, guys. To keep supporting this type of content and the channel, hit the magical subscribe and like buttons. Also, make sure you hop onto the Mineral Miners Discord to join the community and potentially take advantage of some coaching. You can find the link in the description box down below.